Carlson.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
Dingfelder. Citro.
Here.
Vieira. Miranda.
Here.
And Goode.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You see that ABC, Madam Clerk? You see those bottles there? All right, put my bottles up there. All right, we're going to go to items 20, 21, 22, and 23. All related to the Pure Project. Is staff ready to go? Staff ready to go? I don't have any volume from staff. Gene, we can't hear you. Madam Clerk, where we at with that?
She needs to unmute herself.
Need you to unmute yourself, Gene. We're doing Pure, brother. Come on.
That's what I'm about to.
All right, are we ready in the conference room there for Pure?
Council, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
There's an echo.
Okay, apologize for the technical difficulty. Appreciate your time today, council. We have some brief information to share with you regarding items 20 through 23. Before we do that, I would like to just offer up a couple of minutes for three environmental subject matter experts who want to make a statement. And so I'm first going to call up Mr. John Truitt. He's the Deputy Secretary for Regulatory Programs for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. So Mr. Truitt, thank you for joining us today. We've got just a brief time to share some information with our City Council. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, council members. I hope you can hear me all okay. I appreciate the opportunity to have a few minutes to express how important water reuse is to not only the department, but the state of Florida. So I wanted to give you a very quick update on where we're at with that in terms of regulatory oversight. In 2020, there was a report published for the framework for implementing potable reuse in Florida. And immediately following that, the legislature passed the Clean Waterways Act, which was signed into law in June of 2020. As part of that, it directed the department to implement direct potable reuse regulations, which we're currently working on. And we also created a website called One Water Florida. If you Google One Water Florida, you can get all of this information on there. As part of the regulatory rulemaking process, we actually did statewide research and reached out to almost 2,000 respondents to find out opinions and their viewpoints on reuse and reclaimed water. The results were actually very favorable. Clearly, the public in the state of Florida has a different attitude to reuse now than they did 10, 15 years ago. 75% of people were familiar with the concept of reclaimed water. The majority of people actually wanted to see reclaimed water used for personal use and let the natural environment replenish itself. And the big takeaway from the survey was 65% support direct potable reuse of water, and only 6% oppose it, and the other 29% have no opinion on the matter. And as part of the Florida Clean Waterways Act, I mentioned a specific statute was included that states reclaimed water is deemed a water source for public water supply systems. That's the first time we've had that language in the state of Florida. So we're undergoing rulemaking right now to ensure that our indirect and direct potable reuse regulations can be used by different entities around the state. We believe that rulemaking will conclude with direct potable reuse being available from a regulatory perspective either by the end of this year or early next year. So again, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to have a few minutes to kind of lay out where we were at on that topic. Thank you.
Don't raise your hands all at once.
Can I ask a question?
Mr. Dingfelder, then we'll go Mr. Carlson, Mr. Citro.
Is it Mr.
Sorry.
Mr. Truitt? Mr. Truitt, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how are you today?
Good, sir. Thank you.
Good. I'd never seen that survey before. It seems a little contradictory with the 100 emails that we've received over the last couple of days. And I'm still waiting for the first email to come in to say that I want reuse and I want direct reuse. So with that said, please share that survey with Ms. Duncan if she doesn't have it. And Ms. Duncan will get it to us because I'm very, very curious, curious of what the questions were and who it was propounded to. And I don't doubt anything you say. We don't know each other, obviously, but I appreciate your service to the state and all that. But to say 65% of folks are in favor of direct reuse, that's what you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Again, I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Get that number.
They did a survey.
Yeah, I think,
Mr. Carlson, you recognize?
yeah, I mean, that's my business with my other job, and I would love to see the methodology and who did that and how the questions were asked. I've actually tried to run my own surveys on this, and it's really hard. Whit and I had a discussion about this the other day. It's really hard not to ask the questions in a skewed way, for or against. It's a complicated thing, and it has so many different aspects to it. But, sir, just a couple questions. We've been told, I'm going to paraphrase, but we've been told that the state has required us to do this, and in the original alternatives analysis, the alternatives were going to cost over 30 years between $2.1 and $6.3 billion, which I think most people in the community call an unfunded mandate by the legislature. As I and others have spoken to the authors of this legislation, they don't want to speak to the media, but off the record they say that that's ridiculous. We didn't give Tampa an unfunded mandate. Tampa is reading this wrong, and if this was true, why isn't every city in the state running around spending billions of dollars? And I know they all just presented to you all a couple weeks ago, but it seems like Tampa is going way out differently than everyone else. But the other thing is that the legislation has I think two broad exemptions, and one of them is just environment. And as we've talked to the makers of the legislation, we asked the question, right now this water is going into the Tampa Bay estuary, and it's a beneficial flow to the Tampa Bay estuary. It has nutrients in it that ideally would be taken out through an additional process, but it's not a $2 billion or $6 billion process. The folks that we talked to, the makers of the law, said that helping the Tampa Bay estuary is itself a beneficial use and or an exemption under the environmental area. Do you, in your regulations that you're building, do you think that there's, or is it possible that your department could give us an official opinion on that? And if it's not a beneficial use to the estuary, will the DEP be looking at what the harm to the estuary would be by removing this 50 MGD?
Yes, sir. So under Senate Bill 64, there are several different ways to comply with, including only banned non-beneficial surface use. So if there is a benefit to the environment and that can be shown, that's certainly an option. There's 167 utilities around the state that law affected. We've gotten plans for all 167. If you roughly divvy them up, they all fall in three major buckets. About a third want to either continue or create a beneficial surface water discharge, either hydrating wetlands or improving water quality in an estuary, something like that. About a third are looking at deep well injection, and another third are looking at going to the reclaimed use. So I would say if you're looking at the beneficial use, we have 9 months to review the project, so certainly my folks will work with your utility
If we
narrow down the options and better clarify.
If we city council asked DEP the question, would the existing use be a beneficial use to help the Tampa Bay estuary, which I think every environmental science says it is, although they'd like to have the nutrients further cleaned out, would your organization be able to respond directly to city council?
I believe so, sir. In our ecosystem side of the house, which I'm not over, they're the ones that do all of the water quality and the monitoring and determine the ecosystem impacts. But I'll certainly get with my counterpart, Deputy Secretary Blaylock, raise that question to him and see how we can get an answer back to you, sir.
I don't know if you heard the community this morning, but they're asking us for objectivity in the analysis of this. And if we could categorize, if the makers of the law say that they think that the current usage is covered under the environmental exemption, then it seems like we shouldn't harm the estuary by taking the water out. And number two, that we shouldn't spend $2 to $6 billion and make people drink potty water. The other thing is, Sierra Club gave me some information that said that 9 out of 10 of these potable reuse projects in the United States use reverse osmosis. And a year or so ago, when the consultants of the water department came before us, I asked them the question, what is the safest, best, highest quality way to filter this water? And their answer twice to me was not reverse osmosis. I didn't ask if reverse osmosis was the best. I just asked what is the best and safest, and they said not reverse osmosis. But Sierra Club says that 9 out of 10 in the United States are using reverse osmosis. We happen to have what was at the time the state-of-the-art saltwater desal plant on the bay. By the way, this water is going into the bay and then filtering around there anyway. But we potentially could get another group to build a pipeline from our facility to the reverse osmosis plant and have them filter it there. And by co-locating, and they're planning on expanding their plant anyway, it seems like we could save millions or billions of dollars. And so that gets into two questions. What's your opinion on reverse osmosis as a potable filter? Because that's not one of the options we're looking at now. And second, is your preference that City of Tampa would work as a region and try to ensure regional sustainability, or just work as a city alone?
Council Chairman, could I interrupt and just suggest if we could continue with our presentation? I think some of the councilman's questions will be answered.
Well, I would just like to hear DEP's opinion on those two things. And they're a state authority, so they're independent of the city.
I think reverse osmosis is a perfectly acceptable solution. We, as the regulators, we don't like to say what may be best or not. Whatever meets the regulatory requirements is going to be the best choice for the entity that wants to do that. I know I had reverse osmosis for the 16 months I was in Iraq, and that worked out just fine for us. In terms of whether the city wants to work alone or work as a regional, our regulations do not affect that. That would be up to the local governments in the region if they wanted to go alone or not. Our regulations would certainly contemplate if there was some kind of a cooperative agreement. I'm sure you could get the permitting authorization that way. If you wanted to go alone, you could get that way as well.
Thank you very much. Thanks for appearing.
I have a question for the gentleman. And you are working with the state, correct, sir? Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't hear you. I apologize.
You are the state DP, right?
Yes, sir.
So let me ask this question here. Let me just get the elephant out the room here. We can talk about the environment, you can talk about all these issues. The bottom line, what people want to know, what kind of water are we drinking? That's the bottom line. You can talk about the aquifer, we can talk about all these other things, but the bottom line, people want to know, what kind of water are the people in Tampa Bay drinking? Can you answer that for me? What kind of water are we drinking?
So to be permitted and fall under the regulations, we implement the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act, which has all of the requirements for, like I said, the safe drinking water. It's got a bunch of primary and secondary constituents that have all kinds of requirements. Our potable reuse rules that we're going to be getting to would also incorporate all of those requirements. So the same requirements in our existence today from, say, withdraw from the aquifer, run through a plant, and it comes out of your plant. If you went to direct potable reuse, that water would have to be the exact same quality coming out.
So
It's the end quality of what we measure.
You mentioned in your statement, and it's the key point I want to make. You're talking what I call not layman's term to people who are listening, and the question is, right now, what kind of water are people in Tampa Bay drinking? I think that's the question, because I already know what we're drinking. We just have to be honest and tell the people that if there's a better solution to what we're drinking. So can you honestly answer that for me, since you're the state?
I think I'm sorry if I'm being unclear. I'm not understanding if you mean, are you drinking primarily groundwater that's been treated, or are you actually asking the criteria that is used to measure the drinking
I'm
water under
asking,
the
are we
state.
drinking potty water already now? Have we been drinking potty water already?
There is no direct potable reuse down there.
Pardon me?
sir. There is no direct potable reuse down there, sir.
So nobody in Hillsborough County, we don't, no one's doing that, right? That what you telling me?
Correct. Yes.
Excuse me, but I may interpret that question as, where does the water come from? Primarily from the Green Swamp and from the northeastern part of Pasco County. And what do you have around there? I would imagine that there's a lot of cattle, horses, a lot of different types of fowl, and a lot of different types of species in the river that certainly have a lifespan like we do, and they also have a death cycle like we do. So we're drinking water that it's not pure. You have to purify it. Any water that we drink right now, as far as I know, is not pure. You have to have an enormous amount of cleanup that goes through it, not only in this system, of any other water currently in the state of Florida or in this country. Has to be purified to a standard that is created by the agencies in which they live. And this is what it is. This is not, TAP was a goal to increasing the water supply for the Tampa's growth. As I understand pure, it recognizes that all interrelated water has value. Now, pure is primarily an environmental restoration project to achieve multiple goals. And there is the difference. Are we drinking that water? Listen, we're drinking water right now that if you take water from the Hillsborough River and drink it before it's cleared up, it's as nasty as anything else you want. When you look at the desal plant, yes, it has a function. Yes, it certainly does its job. What are you drinking? You're drinking water that's very costly to produce. You're drinking water that, what happens when a whale dies, or a shark dies, or somebody goes on a recreational boat and has to do number one and number two? You think they're going to hold it for 4 hours?
That's why you're called the legend. See, you answered
No, I'm not a legend. I'm telling you what it is.
See, you
know what
answered
I'm
my
saying, Mr.
question.
Chairman?
That's what the people want to know.
We have to be factual with the facts.
There you go.
I've heard things today that, listen, even well water's got to be cleaned up to some degree. When I first came into office back in the middle 70s, 20% to 18%, I forget which way, the city of Tampa had what? Septic tanks and not connected to water. And we made an agreement with the public to, I think it was $500. Finally, I think we settled at $250 or something. I'm going back in the 70s. And I think maybe now it's less than 1%. We had all the good people that needed, most of them were in South Tampa, some was in West Tampa, some in Ybor City, that didn't have city water, that didn't have city sewers. I was one of them on Lake Avenue and MacDill Avenue. We had to connect, and we had to do our own connection. So myself and a neighbor, which I helped pay, I bought the expense, and we dug the trench, and he was a plumber, and he did all the work with a permitted thing and connected. That's how most of us in West Tampa got it. So to say that it's always been something, river water is not pure water. It is not pure water. Desal is not pure water. Any water that you drink, I don't care where you come from, it's got to meet a certain specification accordingly to those specifications of law within that jurisdiction. And there's where we're at. Let me tell you another thing, and this has nothing to do with pure. When you go to Atlanta, to the Adequan Valley, when you go to El Paso, when you go to Orange County, you're drinking the water that we're talking not to have. There's nothing wrong with that water. It's just, I tell you what, I guarantee you that water is purer than the water I'm producing now.
I got my water bottles for you, so I brought my water bottles for you to test the water. That's why I brought one,
I'll
two,
drink
three.
all three of them. I'm immune to that. So what I'm saying is that if you get a plastic, see that plastic bottle? Is that the soft plastic bottle,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
That plastic bottle, you put it next to the window and you live there for 30 days and you forget about it, you want to drink it, you're drinking water with plastic,
It's true.
okay? And guess what? They still drink it. That water, if you leave it next to a window for 30 days, and I'm not a scientist and I don't have your position, but just with the idea that it's plastic, what is plastic made out of? Petroleum.
Cancer.
I guess, part of it. So what are you drinking? You're drinking petroleum that's got plastic. That's what it is. Now, if you get the thicker bottle that doesn't squeeze so easily, it may take 6 months. Whatever the time is, I don't really know. It may be 3 years or 3 months, but you will drink it if you drink that water that's been there for some time, a reasonable time. The water changes. I can tell you that if you go to the Adequan Valley and you go to Lake Lanier, all that water that comes from Lake Lanier down, 70 million gallons a day is what? Reclaimed water that's been treated to the highest degree. Not one living microbe. That's all I'm going to say. And this is not about pure. This is about the other type of water that was injected into pure to confuse things. So I'm just making what I see, what I know is going on, and this is what we are talking about.
Mr. Miranda?
And the city of Tampa has a contract for 82 million gallons a year average. You cannot break that contract with, we have with Swift Mud. You have that agreement. We belong to Tampa Bay Water, who ends in 2038, or maybe never ends. Let me explain that. That contract's got two endings. One that ends in 2038, and one that doesn't end if you have a debt. So I challenge that contract, and I've been working to say, how can you have a contract that's got no ending? Or does it really end when you have a bond out? So I'll be honest with you, every time there's a vote on the finance, I vote against it because it has anything that goes past 2038. I vote against it because the contract cannot have two endings. Either it ends or it doesn't end. That's all. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may. One second, I'm gonna get you, Mr. Tito. That's why I said what I said to the gentleman from the state, Mr. Dingfelder. You know, the public just wants the facts and information.
That's all.
That's all they want. All this going around and around, just tell the people what they need to know and hear. They know where the water's coming from, what's in the water. They can accept what we're drinking and what we're not drinking. So we have to tell the people what is going on. And that's what frustrates me sometimes, that we want to hide things. It's just communicating with the public. And then let the public then tell us, because that would give them the information they need. So that's why I said what I said to the gentleman from the state. And Mr. Randall came right up and gave me the information that I already knew, but we couldn't get it from the people who were supposed to entrust to tell us this information. Mr. Vera, you recognize.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be frank. I mean, that's what I'm here to do. I want to listen to this presentation, to listen to folks with the requisite knowledge so that I can acquire the knowledge for today's vote and for future votes, and that's what I want to do. I have 90 minutes until I have to leave, and I want to make sure that I listen to this presentation. So I don't know if it's a point of order or whatever, just my preference that maybe just respectfully suggest that questions, comments, et cetera, come after the presentation so that I can at least intake that. That's all. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Cross?
Just one quick follow-up to all this. There are folks, and I've said this over and over again at other meetings, there are folks who don't want to drink potty water no matter what. But a lot of people who are against it are okay with it if the city goes through a process of building trust in the options. The issue here, as you heard this morning and you've heard in emails and everything else, the public doesn't have all the information because the city has not gone out and talked to more than 200 people. And number two, the folks don't trust the information the city is giving them because they feel it's biased. The fact that we had 5 alternatives and we asked the water department to communicate it with the public and they didn't, and now they're trying to narrow it down to 2 alternatives, doesn't build trust of the public. And the fact that their consultant they hired immediately dismissed reverse osmosis, which is the one that I'm told 9 out of 10 cities in the country use, and it's the same technology essentially as desal, but it's used to purify the water. So yeah, whether we're drinking it now or we will be in the future, we need to make sure that we're looking at science. First of all, if the legislation is an excuse, we need to find out if it really is. I don't think it is. But then we have to build trust with the community that we're doing the right thing. And that's why I think we need to focus on public engagement and go back to all the alternatives. Let the public, the engineering to some extent has been done. Let the public tell us what they want. Thank you.
If 1 second, then I'll leave. I'm not going to belabor the issue. Why are we here today and what are we doing about pure and what is the ramifications of it? First of all, by 2032, no government can put water into the bay, no matter what you have. We have an advanced tertiary treatment plant with others do not, and we've been putting in there, yes, it's cleaned up, but even then, If you look at it from day one to 360 days, and the gentleman here from the Department of State can correct me, we're putting in 360 tons of nutrient into the bay, even though we're helping cleaning it. Piney Point put over 200 million in a very short time. But if you look at it as far as what are we doing to help the bay, if we could take that 360 tons of nutrient out of the bay, you're going to have a much cleaner bay, even though we've helped produce it since the 50s, number one. Number two, we settled with the Friends of the River, and thank God they won, to have so many cubic feet per second over the dam. And we went to 6 point something, that wasn't enough. There's where the came in, we settled at between 11 to 15 million gallons of water, fresh water day going over the dam to help the nature. And that's needed. There's no doubt about it. What this will do in part, it subsidized that 11.5 to 12 million to 13 million to 14 million to 15 million gallons going over the bay, over the dam to clean out and give the fishes a right to live like everybody else and the other little crabs and whatever is there, little fish that are neutral to be big fish. So all these things have to come into play from nature. Once that's done, that 11 million gallons that we're getting there, that's where we save some water, and that's why we need to bring this water to subsidize that water going over the dam. That would be justify, in my opinion, our need when we can't do that. And that's coming. Once you can't put the water in the bay, you got 70 million gallons of whatever you want to call it, reuse water, poppy water, whatever it is. I may be wrong, but this is what I think. Then you have to have, what are you going to do with that water? So we're taking so many millions to subsidize that, because that's coming from where? Sulphur Springs. And at the time we do it, you can go back in history and look when we started doing Sulphur Springs and put over the dam. We knew sooner or later it would get too salty to meet the requirements that we settled on. And I'll stop and yield to Mrs.
Mr. Chair, I'll ask my questions, but if I could be first after the presentation.
All right, Gene, I'm gonna go let the presentation continue, and then we're gonna hold all questions, write your questions down, so we can get through it, and then we can go back and forth.
And I apologize for taking the time.
We won't hold any more Q&A, we're gonna let you get through your presentation, so write your questions down, Jim. All right, Gene, go ahead, we're sorry.
Thank you so much, Council Chair, and thank you, council members, for your interest on this topic. I just want to make a quick statement before we give our other two speakers a very short moment to say a few words, and just make something very clear, which is in line with what you heard from the public this morning. This next step that we're asking you to vote on today is essentially to fully vet all of the alternatives that we already looked at through the independent party review at your request last fall. We're going to look at all those alternatives, fully vet those alternatives, which includes the purple pipes, and have the robust public engagement that you have been asking for. Our last round of this was the first incremental step of that. And our next step is to have the full vetting of these alternatives, get everything on the table, hear from the public, and we'll come back to you with a workshop this fall and share that feedback before we make our next step. So with that said, I would like to introduce Ms. Jeanette Sechrist. She's the Director of Resource Management for SwiftMud. She's been a partner with her agency on this environmental restoration project. Jeanette, thank you for sharing a few words this morning.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you. I'm with the Southwest Florida Water Management District, and I appreciate the opportunity to provide some input on the PURE project. I did want to let you all know that our governing board did approve funding a portion of the PURE project specifically related to the natural systems recovery that was just mentioned regarding the Lower Hillsborough River minimum flow. That minimum flow was set by the district's governing board, and that's to protect the Lower Hillsborough River and all of the habitat that the river provides. And with that, the Sulphur Springs has been used as one of the freshwater sources that the city uses to meet the minimum flow of the Lower Hillsborough River. And over time, the Sulphur Springs, the salinity has been increasing, and that has been resulting in Sulphur Springs becoming a less reliable freshwater source for the Lower Hillsborough River. So with the PURE project, this provides a great opportunity to provide fresh water to the lower Hillsborough River to meet that minimum flow and to provide that much needed fresh water for the habitat. So that is the reason why the district has prioritized funding for a portion of the project. We're excited to work with the city on this project and would be happy to help answer any questions.
No. Thank you so much for the information, Jeanette. We appreciate the partnership. And I'd next like to ask Dr. Deborah Luke.
Gina, all your people gonna stay on for Q&A after, your experts you have here, are they gonna stay on?
They will stay as long as their schedules allow. They said they would accommodate to the best extent they could,
All right.
Chairman.
Okay.
Can I,
So Dr. Deborah Luke is the Senior Vice President of Conservation for the Florida Aquarium, another partner with the City of Tampa. And thank you, Deborah, for a few words to me this morning.
Absolutely. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, council members, for this opportunity. As you said, I work for the Florida Aquarium, and we are pleased to support this proposal currently in front of you. We believe that this is a preemptive proposal that will study water reuse within the city of Tampa. Florida Aquarium's mission is to save wildlife from extinction and educate and inspire stewardship of our natural environment. And we envision a world where together we protect and restore our blue planet. We believe that wildlife and wild places and human life are all interconnected, and that healthy waters lead to healthy communities, habitats, and people. By treating reclaimed water to remove contaminants, as many of you have already just discussed, from pharmaceuticals to all types of contaminants, to exceed drinking water standards and expand water reuse by the city of Tampa would also very likely yield important environmental benefits. The reduced or eliminated discharge of reclaimed water into Hillsborough Bay may improve aquatic vegetation growth and decrease the potential for algae blooms, thereby improving environmental conditions to the benefit of both humans and wildlife. Restoration efforts in Sulphur Springs, as we just heard, through this project may have the added benefit of improving winter refuge habitats for the Florida manatees, as well as other fish and wildlife that depend on a steady supply of fresh water year-round. So these are obvious win-wins that support both the aquarium's long-standing commitment to protect and restore our planet, as well as to help humans in our communities. Thank you very much for your time and for considering this really proactive approach.
Thank you, Dr. Luke. We appreciate your time this morning. Thank you, Chairman, for giving us a few moments for our subject matter stakeholders. I just want to again reinforce the commentary we heard this morning, which we fully anticipated prior to getting to this point today in terms of engaging on this topic. It is our intent to have full public engagement, meaningful public engagement that includes the alternatives that have been under consideration, including the purple pipes options, so we can get information exchange with the public and get a good discussion. So when we come back to you this fall with a workshop, you'll hear that information and we can continue to proceed with our water planning activities. So with that, Whit is just going to share a few key points that we shared with you last week during our briefings, and then we'll yield back to your questions and answer those to the best extent possible. So thank you, Whit.
Thank you, because Mr. Dingfellow has a question for the young lady, so go ahead, Whit.
I just had a question for the young lady from Swiftmud before we lose her. I didn't know if we lost her or not.
I'm still here, and I appreciate being called a young lady.
Okay. Seacrest.
Correct.
Okay, Ms. Seacrest. So have you had a chance to review the Juturna alternatives and the alternatives analysis that was done last summer by the Juturna Consulting Group for the city?
I personally have not reviewed that report.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Carlson, my fellow over here, fellow councilman, he was talking about why aren't we exploring some of the additional alternatives, and I was just wondering, I've been wondering that for a couple of days myself, because it looks like after we did the alternatives analysis, we kind of narrowed this down to just two alternatives, neither of which is heavy on conservation and/or continued expansion of our reclaimed water program. In other words, we've got a lot of folks out there who are putting potable water on their yards. And I'm just not talking about individual yards. I'm talking about, and in the study it mentions Raymond James Stadium, Steinbrenner Stadium, Lowry Park Zoo, Amalie Arena, Busch Gardens, golf courses, et cetera. So some larger uses as well. My history with SwiftMud is 30-something years. I've been watching you guys, and I know that you've always been very supportive with grants, et cetera, as related to conservation and use of reclaimed water and elimination of the use of potable water on yards. Let's just start with that question. Is that still consistent with SwiftMud policy?
That is. So beneficial reuse of reclaimed water is a top priority of the Water Management District. And that can be in many different forms, including the purple pipe. We have started to see a trend with our local government partners that many are moving more towards the indirect and direct potable reuse. We have over a dozen studies ongoing with our local government partners for evaluating the feasibility of indirect and direct potable reuse. So we have seen a reduction in the traditional purple pipe reclaimed water projects. However, they're still a priority. I do want to emphasize we really want to prioritize beneficial reuse, and we're not saying that we wouldn't fund the traditional purple pipe, but we are encouraging the direct and indirect potable reuse. Right now, we're only funding the feasibility studies with local partners. Right now, we would be only looking at our regional water supply authorities for the actual construction, cooperatively funding the construction.
Okay, so I'll just finish up, Mr. Chairman. The Juturna study that I made a reference to, and I hope they get it to you. If not, I will. The alternative 6A, which is an expansion of the purple pipes, speaks to a 13 MGD, what is that, MGD? Million gallons per day, thank you. A 13 million gallons per day benefit. And the quote that I just wrote down from this city-funded study says, this decreased demand will result in an improvement in Lower Hillsborough River minimum flows and the city's potable water supply reliability. And those are two big goals that I would say are consistent with SwiftMud. So my question is, are those two goals consistent with SwiftMud's goals? The improvement in the Lower Hillsborough River MF minimum flows and the city's potable water supply reliability?
Definitely, water supply reliability is a top priority of all of the local governments and the regional water supply authorities, and Lower Hillsborough River is a priority for the Water Management District. So okay. I think those are both very important goals.
All right. Well, I know that the same study came out with a conclusion that purple pipes are expensive. Trying to go to these large users like Ray J and Steinbrenner, et cetera, is expensive, but it's been eliminated from the alternatives that we're about to vote on. And I'm not bothered. I don't want to bother you anymore, Jeanette, on that issue, but I'm just sort of making a statement to everybody. That concerns me greatly about the step we're about to take today, because they've eliminated, as far as I can see, and Gene, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've eliminated some of these other options, and Bill, you spoke to that this morning. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your service.
Yeah, one thing similar to what Councilmember Dingfelder did, I encourage my colleagues, as you get the few emails that are in favor of this, email them back and ask them what they're basing their decision on. Just like the water department is ridiculing the public for not having correct information or full information, and that's our fault because the city hasn't educated them. For example, there was a professor who emailed us and said in favor of this, and I emailed back and said, what did you, as you studied the alternatives analysis, how did you decide which alternative was the best? And it turned out the person hadn't read any of it. And so people are in favor of reuse in general and concepts, but this is a specific process this city is taking us through. Sorry, the lady from, I forgot your name, from Swift Mud. You talk about minimum flows, and the city talks about minimum flows. Minimum flows really just equates to the permit for the 82 MGD, right? I mean, except in a massive drought.
So the Water Management District has established a minimum flow for the lower Hillsborough River. That is separate from the water use permit. There is a recovery strategy associated with the lower Hillsborough River that requires a certain amount of freshwater flow. And it's complex. It's based on seasons, and it's based on freshwater equivalents, recognizing the salinity gradients and the salinity in the sources. So it is two separate things, but the water use permit does include the requirement for providing the freshwater flow to meet that minimum flow.
So thank you for the long explanation. We should have you back. But the city is worried that because of the minimum flows are not hit, that they're not going to be able to get the same permit for 82 MGD from Swift Mud. But the alternative would be, if we're short, we buy from our regional water supplier. But that's not one of the options the city is looking at. And so it would not Swift Mud encourage a city, especially a member of the regional water supplier, to partner with or buy from the regional water supplier?
Well, I wouldn't be able to speak to that. I mean, I think that would be more of a question for city staff and for...
But I mean, from a Swift Mud point of view, doesn't Swift Mud encourage regional cooperation?
Well, definitely we encourage regional cooperation, but I believe that's already happening. So I think that's...
And do you know, for if the city proposed potable reuse, would not, because of the interlocal agreement and Swift Mud's prior funding, wouldn't the city have to get approval from Tampa Bay Water before you would give the city funding for potable reuse, direct potable reuse?
For the potable reuse projects and any alternative water supply project, in order for it to receive funding from the district, it would have to be owned and operated by a regional water supply authority. So that's what's in our cooperative funding policy. So that's how staff would make a recommendation to our board.
Sorry, you may correct me, but I'm hearing that the projection for the entire region, 3 counties, in 40 or 50 years will be 50 MGD. And this project is bringing 50 MGD to drinking water quality standards, which to me seems excessive in what we'll have to spend. But you talked about Sulphur Springs has, and Whit showed me a model the other day where there was some saltwater intrusion before we started pumping, but then it skyrocketed. It seems to me the simple solution would be to just stop pumping the 11 MGD from Sulphur Springs and do some modeling to see what happened to the saltwater intrusion. Would it reverse, or would it stay the same? And if we did that, then what would be the outcome? My question is, has Swift Mud done any modeling of aquifer storage and recovery related to Sulphur Springs in that particular area to see if injecting purified water in that area would actually reverse the saltwater intrusion?
No, we have not completed a study looking at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, young lady, appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Your question?
Councilman, can you guys see our presentation slides up here on the screen?
We see it, what?
Okay, great. I just want to put in context a couple of things that we heard, just to reiterate what Gene said. So much of what we've heard today is that the public needs to know more. And what I want to emphasize is that with your support today, we can embark on robust public engagement. We've had narrow public engagement previously. That was because we had 14 alternatives that were being studied and then reviewed by a independent third party. We needed to narrow that list and come up with a set of alternatives that we could bring back to the public for additional information. That is what this vote is for today, is primarily for public engagement and additional conceptual designs for a series of options on how to reuse our water. I appreciate Mr. Truitt from the state being here. His remarks were narrowly tailored to drinking water reuse, which is certainly one option that we are looking at under the PURE project. There are many, many options under PURE, including environmental restoration of the lower Hillsborough River, deep well injection, aquifer storage, recovery and recharge, and of course, refilling the reservoir, which blends with our drinking water supply. So we've got a lot to talk about and discover here together, and that's exactly what this journey is going to allow us to do. So please allow me just a couple of moments to walk through our presentation. First and foremost, PURE is an environmental restoration project. Councilman Carlson referenced a possibility whereby the water that's being discharged from Curran is beneficial to the estuary. Under our analysis right now, that is not true. The fresh water is diluted so quickly that there is very minimal benefit to the estuary. And in fact, the only impact on the estuary right now is negative, and that's because of the 360 tons of nutrients. And you can square that with the Tampa Bay Estuary Program's work program. So we do not feel that an exemption, an environmental exemption to Senate Bill 64 would be to discharge this into the estuary. However, we do see a benefit of that water being beneficially reused to supplement minimum flows on the lower Hillsborough River. And that, we believe, is a primary goal. This is an environmental restoration project that takes a holistic viewpoint on our water reuse options, and that's what we're going to walk through today. So, as Mr. Truitt referenced and has been referenced several times, yes, there is a driving law, a driving force behind why we need to beneficially reuse this water. Let me be clear. In 10 years, we must eliminate the discharge from the Howard F. Curran wastewater treatment facility. That is reclaimed water that we see an opportunity to reuse. Whether the state law was in existence or not, we believe that the science and the engineering is here to stop discharging a very valuable asset and resource to this region and frankly to the entire world, which is fresh water that we have the engineering to reuse in a beneficial way. The state law now has a timeline to that, but we were looking at beneficially reusing this water through a number of options for several years. Pardon me, we jump forward. And if we don't comply with the state law, we do have a missed opportunity, and we do believe there is going to be funding from the state. We do not believe this is an unfunded mandate. We believe that there are going to be significant grant opportunities both from the state of Florida and from the federal government, including partially from the $1 trillion infrastructure bill, which has hundreds of billions of dollars for water projects in it. We risk not being reissued our wastewater permit, and of course, there are fines associated with noncompliance. We've talked about Sulphur Springs, a cherished part of our river, a cherished community, that asset that has, over the last couple of years, but become increasingly jeopardized, and environmental degradation will continue if we pump Sulphur Springs to supply the fresh water flows on the river as we are right now. Sulphur Springs is simply becoming too salty to remain a freshwater source for the Hillsborough River. If we do not address this, the Hillsborough River as we know it will be jeopardized. Certainly, there are options for supplying minimum flow. We could buy water from Tampa Bay Water. We believe that is not a cost-effective solution, nor does it solve all of the issues that we present to you today. This is a trend line that Councilman Carlson was referencing. You see the gradual trend line with Sulphur Springs becoming saltier simply because of the natural flow from this part of the Florida and aquifer. When we started pumping it in the early 2000s to meet those minimum flows, that's indicative of the red line. It's becoming more and more salty. We believe that the Southwest Florida Water Management District is going to challenge us to find an alternative to providing those freshwater flows that are currently being provided by Sulphur Springs. And we are optimistic that through this water reuse process that we can find a better use of the reclaimed water that's currently being discharged. Certainly one option is supplementing minimal flows. If we do not address the overpumping of Sulphur Springs, our ecosystem, the marine habitat as we know it on the Hillsborough River, will be jeopardized. The manatees that visit the springs, the fish, the plants, the salinity levels will change those almost irreversibly if this is not addressed. Finally, the pure process, and let me emphasize, this is a process. We heard a lot of speakers this morning talking about toilet to tap. We do not have a project selected at the end of what we are talking about right now. We are on the discovery process to look at multiple options. One of the things that we need to address in the city of Tampa right now is the potential for drought. And this process will help us discover resilience opportunities. This is simply a graph of some of the droughts that we've seen in the past. We expect additional climate impacts to further exacerbate droughts and the drought cycles as they continue into the future. So why pure? We need to comply with state law. We need to meet healthy river flows. We need to drought-proof our water supply and support a resilient city. Those are the reasons why we need to explore beneficial reuse. The what at the end of this is still for the city council, for the public, for the engineers, for the budget crunchers, all to help us to decide which of these potential options is the best for our community. Why now? Because understanding, incorporating, and responding to these major public health concerns that we share takes a long time. These studies, this modeling, the pilot programs that have been suggested, all of these take time to design, to build, and to fund. We have 10 years to be in full compliance with this state law. We need to start now. With today's action before you, we can go embark on some additional modeling. And Councilman Carlson, we will look at purple pipes. We will look at the 5 options, not just the 2. We simply arrived at the 2 because that's what the engineering, the science, and the costs led us to look at. But with this public feedback and with additional input from council, we are willing to explore the 5 alternatives and any combination that makes sense, both from input from the council, from the public, and from engineers. This work
Can I stop you one second, Mr. Chairman, really, and I'm sorry, Joe. On that question, because that's a linchpin question for me, okay? You've got a contract in front of us that has a limited scope. You just said we can expand the scope of that and add 3 additional alternatives or whatever you just said. Tell me the process by how you would expand those. Are you willing to renegotiate with the contractor and come back to us with an amended contract? I would think that would be the process. That's a very important issue for me. I'm sorry.
Councilman Deco, unequivocally, yes, I can promise you that we are willing to amend our contract with PCL and Carollo, the design build team, to expand our review and the vetting process for all 4 combinations of alternatives.
That's 5, right?
And that is feedback that we are giving
issue about 4 versus
this week.
5.
We've heard from council and we are responding to your request in real time.
Okay.
Finally, I can underscore the secondary benefits of the state law and our opportunity for water reuse. Yes, we're looking at the river. Yes, we're in compliance with state law. But importantly, we are removing this final tranche of nutrients from the reclaimed water being discharged into Hillsborough Bay. I think it was Councilman Miranda that put this in perspective. Right now, we're discharging 360 tons of nutrients. When I say nutrients, that's mainly nitrogen. That nitrogen chokes out our seagrasses, which negatively impacts our ecosystem. 200 tons from Piney Point, we all remember that. So we're eliminating the equivalent of a Piney Point and a half a year from the bay. And we just do not believe that the positive impacts of adding some fresh water in the bay outweigh the negative impacts of this nutrient loading.
So thank you, Councilman, for taking a few moments to refresh on some of this information. I'd just like to also make a comment that there was a question asked about what kind of water are we drinking. If you look back at the decades of service that the city of Tampa has provided to our citizens and our customers, we provide safe, reliable, quality drinking water, competitively priced, and we're going to continue to do that under the framework of state and federal laws, and continue to make sure that we have that same protocol and high level of standard for whatever projects we take on in the future. So with that, we'll take any questions you'd like to ask the team.
Timer. Mr. Citro, I hadn't heard from you, Mr. Maniscalco, and then Mr. Vieira.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan and Ms. Reamer, I'm going to go through this very, very quickly. Thank you for stating that we are under mandate. Is Ms. McLean here?
Yes, she is.
Who?
Jan.
Yes, Councilman Citro,
that-
McLean
that
Evans,
was-
Assistant
that
City
was-
Attorney.
Oh,
Can you sit down so I can see you, please?
Oh, the attorney, okay.
If we were to take no action at all under this mandate, if we were to take no action at all, what would be the consequences? How much would we be fined? What would happen to the city of Tampa under this mandate from the state of Florida?
Well, I don't know every single one of the consequences off the top of my head, but clearly one that has already been put forth by the state is potentially up to $15,000 a day violation fines.
Say that one more time. How much?
15,000?
$15,000 a day. Thank you very much. Do we have the gentleman that was from the state still on board with us?
Councilman, I apologize. He did have to take another meeting.
Thank you. Then Whit, I'm going to go to you. The water that we're reintroducing, the city of Tampa is reintroducing it to the bay right now.
Yes, sir. So we are discharging approximately 50 MGD of reclaimed water into the bay. Yes, sir.
Is that water that we're reintroducing into the bay cleaner than the water we're taking out of the Hillsborough River in which we use for our drinking water?
Yes, sir, it is.
So we're reintroducing into Hillsborough River that once was poopy water. We're reintroducing that into dirtier water so we can get our drinking water.
Yes, sir. We believe it's a wasted resource.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask this question, and I'm sure you don't know the exact figure, and I'm not asking for the exact figure. If we are to retrofit the rest of the city of Tampa with Purple Line or water for our lawns, how much would that cost the city? Just give me a ballpark figure.
Thanks for the question, Councilman. I think that we can further refine that number with the additional modeling and cost benefit calculations that will be done through this motion today. But the preliminary analysis that was done in the Juturo independent review of all the alternatives put the figure, and I'm just checking my notes right now with my colleagues.
Just a ballpark
Brad,
figure.
Brad, can you read that number to me?
Yeah, so, this is Brad Baird, Deputy Administrator of Infrastructure. The combination that included the Purple Pipe system and to expand that had a 30-year life cycle cost of over $6 billion. And then it had a capital cost in the range of $600 million, I believe, somewhere in that range.
I thank you for that information. Brad, let me move on because I am under a timer here. Can you put that picture back up with the fish?
I can certainly try, Councilman. Yeah. Let's see here.
Because that one right there, that is a picture. And that picture says a lot. Our economy, part of it is based upon fishing. I'm not talking about going out shrimping because we ended that in our bay a long time ago. I'm not talking about fishing that will feed the masses. But for me to go fishing with a guide costs $750 for the day. Do you know how many guides we have in Tampa Bay? Without that clean water, you can't have seagrasses, which I'm hoping that we're going to change our attitude on that. Without those seagrasses, you're not going to have the crustaceans, the shrimp, the crab to feed that fish. Without that fish, you're going to put a whole industry in Tampa Bay out of business. Ms. Duncan, Mr. Reamer, please, I implore you, when we make a vote one way or the other today, make sure that we are as transparent as we possibly can be so that the public knows exactly what we're requesting. But more importantly, and this is things I've suggested, one more second. We already put some water back into our aquifers. We already do that. But that is reverse osmosis. That is as pure as it could possibly be to a certain point. If we're going to do this with this water, let's do it with reverse osmosis. That's number one. We also have to discuss how it's going to affect our water bills. I thank you very much for this report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I think it was Mr. Maniscalco, and then Mr. Vieira, then Mr. Carlson, was it?
I think a lot has already been said, so I'll keep it brief. I haven't had a single person from the public say they want me to support this. And we can see that through the emails. Actually, I haven't had anybody outside of government or connected to government say they want me to support this. Maybe because the public just doesn't know. And maybe we need to do that community outreach to explain to people what's going on. I've heard reverse osmosis, and I've heard the other scientific facts that have been presented to us by professionals that understand how to purify this water so it's safe for the people. I see on one of your slides it says removes 360 tons per year of nutrients to improve the seagrass levels. When I was on the Tampa Bay Estuary Policy Board for 5 years, I believe, or 4 years, Councilman Dingfelder took over after me, we were always boasting about how our seagrass levels have already returned to 1950 levels, which tells me that the bay or the water quality is already healthy. So I don't know what removal of these nutrients will do if we are allegedly already back to 1950 levels, which is before so much pollution was put out into the water. You know, I really don't know what to do here. And I know this is a huge issue which would make us drought-proof for beyond my lifetime, at least a generation or two. I hope to live to be 100, but you never know. You know, the science is there. Not that I don't trust folks. I don't know. I'm struggling with this, again, because I haven't had anybody from the public say, you know, please put this forward. Please support this. I don't know. I mean, I hear what Councilman Citro said. I see what...
I'd be happy to address your questions related to the reason why we have the 360 tons, and then maybe offer a little bit of insight into why you have received some public concern with this process. So the 360 tons, we've done a great job since 1983 eliminating thousands of tons of nutrients from the river, and that has helped our seagrasses improve exceptionally. 360 tons a year is still a lot, and we still have a lot of improvement that we can make towards restoring seagrass. So this is one additional step. When those algal blooms come in from the Gulf of Mexico and they reach things like either our discharge places or Piney Point, they become exacerbated and they make the blooms even bigger. So it's our responsibility as environmental stewards to continue to decrease those point source nutrient discharges as much as possible. If I can, the reason I think that we have seen some public concern about this is because, frankly, there's been a lot of misinformation on what pure is, and that members of the public believe that there is already a specific project that has been selected for construction at the end of this, and that is not true. That could not be further from the truth. We have a suite of options that we are still exploring. We are going to be reusing and recycling water, but let me tell you, we have the best science and the best engineering possible to help us determine the public health concerns and do the outreach necessary to go back to the public and dispel some of the misinformation that currently is out there. I just don't think a lot of members of the public are emailing saying, we understand the science as it's been explained, because we haven't had an opportunity to go out there and fully vet all of the combinations and explain that sufficiently to the public.
Thank you very much. So to wrap it up, what I'm most confused is, and I think you may have answered it quickly just now, item number 20 is a resolution for $1.1 million between the city and the highest bidder, the approved individual here, PCL Construction. But then you're saying we need you to move forward with this in order to do robust public engagement. and involve the community and see what they want. But at the same time, why do we have to approve a $1.1 million contract with a contractor here?
Sure, because what we need to do is we need to be able to undertake some conceptual designs, additional modeling, to come up with the cost of these engineering solutions, the feasibility of these engineering solutions, determine which solutions fit best together, and then take all of that information, which takes time and talents to put together, and then bring that to the public for feedback. These projects are complicated, they are expensive, and they have huge public health implications, and we want to do it correctly, and that costs money, and we want to make sure we sufficiently reach as many people in the public to respond to that incredible engineering that we're looking at undertaking, those incredible conceptual designs as possible. We don't want to shortchange this. The reason it costs $1 million is because there are huge implications here. We want to do the engineering, the science, and address the public health concerns sufficiently, and that costs money.
Okay, so last question. What is the next step? Let's say we approve this $1.1 million contract to get those concepts and everything and do that robust public engagement. What is the next stage? When is the next vote? When, what will that vote be?
Thank you. I'm going to bring up the timeline here, if you just give me a moment, and perhaps my colleagues in the water department that have a better understanding. Brad, can you weigh in on the next?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Beer.
There's a timeline. So the next vote, Councilman, thank you for that question, would be in the fall of this year, where if we are successful in this next phase of public outreach and receiving input and further vetting all four of those combinations, then we would hold a workshop sometime in either late summer, early fall, or earlier if you would prefer, City Council would prefer, with no vote, just to get additional input from the public and City Council as to the progress we've made. And then early fall, we would come to you with another proposal to take the next step for completion of the 30% design. And completion of the 30% design would include what treatment process and where would we discharge. If we choose the combination that the discharge is downstream of the dam, we would have to further design that or bring it to the 30% level, and same with at the reservoir as well.
All right. Thank you very much. So what I'll do is this. I will support this today, but I won't give you a guarantee for the next vote. I want to see what the concepts are. I want to see the science. I want to make sure that the public hears from this, because as I sit here, and I'll finish with this, I'm drinking tea out of an aluminum can, and I'm drinking water out of a plastic cup. How safe is that in the long run? Because anything can seep into what I'm drinking. We don't know, whatever. That's another conversation. I think we should look at this. We should study it, approve this moving forward today, but at the same time, ask the public what they think. We're getting the emails against it. Maybe we need to help people understand what is happening, what is going on, because this is something that will affect this generation and the next generation. This is not an easy vote, but again, we know what a drought does to this community. We've experienced those in the past, and we understand the importance of water. Even though we're surrounded by water, it's the quality of that water and how it affects our population. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Man, I haven't heard that guy talk that much in a long time. Man,
Huh?
I haven't heard you talk that much in a long time.
I've been holding
I think
it
Mr.
in.
Vera was next.
Thank you, sir. And very good questions, by the way, from Councilman Maniscalco that I was going to inquire on or more often than not didn't think about. So thank you for that, sir. I come to this issue I've talked to I've some people that have sent us emails who I know I've given them a call to talk to them about their thoughts, et cetera. I've spoken to Sierra League folks, League of Women Voters, among other folks. I come into this as a neutral. I don't have an experience professionally or through public service, through whatever, very much so in the water issue. So I kind of come to this, like I would joke with folks, not as an agnostic, but as a pilgrim That's a very weird word, but just in search of information. And the biggest thing that I look to, like I always tell folks, is experts, experts, experts. When I see the Florida Aquarium, we got a letter, and again, what's that old saying? You're entitled to your own opinion, not to your own facts. From Donna Peterson, the professor and dean of the USF College of Health. I place some stock in this. I call me crazy, but I do.
She's the one that I emailed back.
Okay.
She said she hadn't looked at the alternative.
Okay, and again, and I'll get to that if I may, Councilman, because I appreciate your saying that. Because one thing that I like to hear, and it's a question to y'all, to wit, Councilman Carlson had brought up other issues involving alternatives. Y'all are willing to consider additional alternatives, correct?
That is correct, Councilman.
Okay, because when I heard that and I heard Councilman Carlson mention that, I go to myself, give me a reason as to why it would be unreasonable or unfeasible to look at other alternatives. Again, I'm looking for that which is responsible, which is backed by experts, but that which is reasonable. And I'm glad to hear that, because when Councilman Carlson said that, I go, I can't think of a reason as to why we wouldn't look at other alternatives, so long as they're credible, which I would assume that they are. For me, moving forward today is a vote for dialogue. We hear a lot of things. Whit, you talked about misinformation. It would appear, some things that are being said that I think, God willing, deviate from reality. I ask people, if we're looking at a plan that has pharmaceuticals in the drinking water, et cetera, wouldn't USF, we are blessed with wonderful local community stakeholders on medical issues, on science, wouldn't they be up in arms? I would think so. I would hope so. And that's what we're voting on today, as far as I understand it. I've taken a lot of time, like all 7 of us have, I think, to wrap my arms around this issue. What bothers me is a lot of the belief out there that we're voting on something that's going to put pharmaceuticals into drinking water, et cetera. We have an obligation and a duty as elected officials to not just not subsidize misinformation, but to acquire the information that we have that is objective, that is responsible, that is quality, so that we can go out there and say, these are the facts as I understand them, and this is what I'm going to vote on. And that's what I've been trying to do. And Councilman Maniscalco, I thought you spoke very, very well, because politics is politics, right? The politics of this would be great to go, nope, pharmaceuticals and drinking water, toilet water, no way, come help me lead the charge. That'd probably be the right political thing to do. You go talk to a political consultant, from James Carville to Karl Rove to somebody locally, they'll probably tell you that. But for me, I think we have a higher duty to do that which is the responsible thing. The responsible thing. And today, as Councilman Maniscalco correctly said, we're not voting on an option. We're voting on a dialogue about what we're ultimately going to do to address what appears to be a significant crisis locally. I'm looking for that. And again, I'm very glad to see that y'all are taking the suggestions with additional options. That sets my mind at ease, because again, I have no dog in this fight, right? And when I go, okay, 2 options, going to limit it there. Why not look at other ones if they're well-informed, et cetera? So that's something that I like to see, et cetera. So just again, my no dog in the fight thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna go Carlson and you, and I have something I want to say, because, we can go round and round and we can play the words and feel it, but at the end of the day, people want to know. Mr. Carlson, Mr. Tifo.
Yeah, just to respond slightly to my colleague just now, and I appreciate all the questions and everything everybody's asked. I went to graduate school. You all have higher education. I went to learn from a quantitative point of view, how do you find the answer? And one of my professors was Jeffrey Sachs, who's one of the top economists in the world. And I saw him do pages and pages, or built, blackboard and blackboard of numbers, crunching numbers on things. And then there's an economist equally trained that doesn't agree with him, and it comes up with pages and pages of numbers and with a different answer. And what I realized in talking to these experts and scientists is every scientific analysis is biased by the model that you start with. And my whole concern all along is not that I'm opposed to drinking potty water. if it's done in the right way. My objection is that it seems like the water department for years and years and years has been pushing one choice, and the particular configuration they're putting is an experimental configuration that hasn't been used in other places. And so my concern, especially going to this meeting, is that now we're down to 2 and we didn't even listen to the public. A few questions real fast and then a couple wrap-up comments. Have you, just quick question to answer, have you informed the customers who are in the county that are not city residents? Anyway, just please think about that. Also, if you haven't already, I heard that not every county commissioner knows that this might affect the county and their constituents. So I think we need to make sure that we include them in it. I appreciate you and Gene have been brought into, you guys are very well versed and you're trying to bring objectivity to this, and I appreciate that. I know Chief of Staff is as well. And but one of the things you said a minute ago, if I heard you right, is that the water that, when you're answering Councilman Citro's question, the water that goes into that we're putting into the bay is cleaner than the water that we're taking out of the river. Well, if that's true, is that true?
That's correct.
So, but then you talk about all the nutrients that we're putting in. Yes, environmentalists would like the nutrients out, but the water, what you're saying is that the water we're putting in the bay is cleaner than the water that's coming to the bay from the river. And if that's true, then it must be a beneficial use. So I don't buy the idea that we have to do this. We could apply for an exemption under this. What we need to do is, I think, be a good regional partner and be honest and open with the public. Also, please don't forget the Seminole Heights people who are worried about their wells. Also, in terms of the numbers, number just came out a minute ago, $6.3 billion or whatever it was for purple pipes. So that's the reason we can't do it. We're going to eliminate the original alternatives now. We're going to eliminate several options because they're too expensive. Well, in the media this week in the Times, the water department said, well, we don't know what the final 2 alternatives are going to cost. Well, when it benefits the water department, they don't say what the cost is, but when they want to exclude something, they talk about it. And by the way, the purple pipes, one of the things that was not included in the model was if we pass an ordinance to say if you have access to purple pipes, you have to use it. And if that was in there, then it would reduce the cost of it because we'd have additional revenues. And so the modeling has to be done in an objective way, is my point. And then, we talk about the public being confused by this. They're not confused. They read SIRE. Unless I read a different document than is on there, and I think everybody else saw the same thing, it says we're going to shortlist the 2 options, and we're hiring a design-build construction company, and I think 3 or 4 engineering firms and 2 PR firms. If you're going from 5 alternatives, we should have had more than 5. Why is it that direct potable use with Tampa Bay Water going to the desal plant is not an option? Why is it that buying from Tampa Bay Water is not an option? Why is it that selling this water as is to Tampa Bay Water, Polk County, or somebody is not an option? All these options should be included and they should be looked at, but the document that we were supposed to approve today does not include that. And now you're saying that it will, and I really appreciate you all changing on the fly, but you have to understand that I and the public would be confused by that. Also, I remember several months ago or a year ago, you all came to us and said, give us $650,000 and we'll do public engagement. We said, well, we want robust public engagement. Please do robust public engagement. And what you all told me the other day is you only talked to 200 people. And you see by the public comment this morning that the public's confused and upset about it. So we need to change all this. Here's the last thing I'll say. If you can put in writing that it's going to include all alternatives, more than just the 5 or 6, and if you take out the construction company and just make it about public engagement, I'll make the motion for it. But as long as it's about design build and we don't have in writing that we're going to do robust public engagement, and we don't have in writing that we're going to look at all the alternatives, I'm not going to vote for it. I want to support it if it's objective, but I can't as it is right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson. I agree with a lot of what you said. Let's back up a little bit, because in order to make these really tough decisions, and Mr. Vieira, I do have a little bit of background, not only as a scientist from when I was young, but also doing water litigation for Hillsborough County. I actually litigated on behalf of the county, anyway, a long time ago. But the bottom line is what are we looking at here? Well, the first thing we're looking at is future water shortages, okay? That is, we've got hundreds of thousands of people coming in, you know, to the area. As you mentioned, Bill, not only do we provide water to the city, but we have additional customers out in the county on the edges of the city. And that number is growing and growing and growing. And the region's growing and growing and growing. So that is a big issue that 10 years from now, not only do we have a state statute that might say X, Y, and Z, but we have potential water shortages. And Mr. Baird can tell us at length about what happened during the drought in 2008, 2009. We also have environmental considerations that exist today in terms of, Mr. Miranda speaks to it, in terms of little fishes and minimum flow in the Hillsborough River, okay? So these are things that beg us to do something, all right? But the emails we've been getting speak very loud and clear about health concerns, about pharmaceuticals that are in the water, and I think they call them microparticles or something other, because they're carbon compounds that are extremely difficult to get rid of. And I don't know that there's any proven science. Now, by the time you inject it into the aquifer and then bring it back up, et cetera, I don't know. But that's what people are concerned about, and rightfully so. Also, folks have talked about conservation. Why don't we do a better job with conservation? Well, one of the reasons we don't do a better job with conservation, and this is counterintuitive, is the water department effectively likes people to put potable water on their yards because they use a lot of water and we charge them for it, and then then at the end of the day, it helps keep our water rates lower and it keeps our water department afloat financially. Okay, I think we've done a lousy job in the state of Florida, and I just looked it up. The average use in the state of Florida is per capita is 96 gallons per day. Okay, and elsewhere in the country, I see numbers in half of that. In the state of Florida, we just aren't particularly good at that. And the Hillsborough County, excuse me, the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County aren't much better. Now, with all that said, I'm willing.
I apologize for jumping in.
No, you're not jumping in. Let me finish. You can rebut afterwards with the bottom line. The bottom line is, and this is why you don't want to jump in with. Today, I will support the mayor's request, okay? I'll support the mayor's request for two big reasons. Number one, the people who've really put a lot of time into this, in addition to Mr. Carlson, is the Sierra Club, the Friends of the River, and the League of Women Voters. And they spent hours and years going over these documents and going over these proposals. And they are conditionally on board with today's proposal, okay? Conditionally. And we have it in writing back and forth between Mr. Baird and the League of Women Voters and that sort of thing in terms of that understanding. That's extremely important to me, number one. Number two, the other reason I'm willing to support it is because just now, Gene Duncan, who I trust and know for 2 decades, has said on the record that the administration has agreed to expand the scope of the consultant's contract to include, while they're going through their review and their public engagement, to include the conservation alternatives and the potential expansion of our retail and our wholesale reclaimed water programs. Okay? I think that speaks to one of your concerns, Bill. And I don't need it in writing. We work with these people day in and day out. If Jean says that they're going to expand the alternatives, okay, in a meaningful way, I trust her. You know, she's a person of her word, and she speaks on behalf of the mayor. So between those two, thank you, Celine, between those two reasons, very important reasons, I'll support the $1 million commitment today. Okay, but as Mr. Maniscalco said, there's no commitment beyond that, I don't think, from any of us. We have to see what the public reaction is 6 months from now after they get some really meaningful engagement, you know, hopefully from the city and from the consultant, and then evaluate, you know, where we are in come this summer. So that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Take it away, Charlie.
Thank you. Just to mention a couple of things. Back in 1998, I believe the city of Tampa did offer some of this reclaimed water, whatever, to Tampa Bay Water under the TWERP project, and whatever it was not taken as to, and it meets Let's go back to conservation. The only way you're gonna have conservation is by changing your rules and regulations on what you plant and how much you have frontage. We changed, I don't know if you were here, Mr. Dingfelder, the size of lawns you can have in a new house, only 70%, I think, or 80% of the space where you could have lawns. That was changed about 8 or 10 years ago. The Pure project is now into Tampa Bay Water. They're reviewing it for their process to see if they appreciate what we're doing or not to some degree. But once you do what I did, and I'm not patting myself on the shoulders at all, 2002, I took all my grass out. I have no grass, front and back.
I'm there with you.
I've got nothing but sand, which I put a portable liner through. In fact, that liner's got to be replaced now because it's about rotted out, where the water goes through and down, and I've got rocks. Yes, I can paint the rocks green and say I got green rocks, but I want to spend the money painting the rocks green. So I got rocks, I got plants that I don't water, and they make out all right. So don't use me as a model, use yourself as a model. If I use more than 1 unit of water, I get mad at myself. Yes, I live alone, but still 1 unit of water. And I do all my laundry, I don't send it out. So what I'm trying to say is conservation is the key to preservation, is the key to spending less money. So if everyone was to follow their own rules, not mine, or we got the guts to say you're not gonna plant no more grass, some of you won't get elected. People like green grass. When you look at what we use at 96 gallons a day per person, I'm not gonna debate that, and you compare it to Arizona, of course they're gonna be less. They got no grass. If you use other things that are common sense things for your own self, and the way you live, and the way you wash clothes, not a half load, but a full load. Don't put the dishwasher in unless you have a full tray going in to get it washed. Of course you're gonna do better. But you know what? We trained ourselves to be damn lazy. All of us have. And we lived a life of glory. And we blame the environment. No, we created the environment. We're creating our own downfall in everything we do. So just change your lifestyle and you'd be much better off. This problem wouldn't be here if it was, we hadn't changed our lifestyle. Do you think that the electric car is going to come? Just think about revolution. In the next 10 years, there'll be more changes, more inventions, including batteries and everything else than there has been in the last 100 years. We're going to have a life change cycle, whether we want it or not, because the environment cannot sustain what we are doing to it, period. When you look at the poles north and south and you look under the mounts of snow or ice, whatever's there, and you get down to the ice, there are pockets down there. I think I've said once before, I was watching the channels that I've been watching. Now I got rid of all the channels. I don't have no more internet. I don't have no more national news. All I have is local news and a lot of PBS that I watch. And some Ed Sullivan, the old reruns. So what I'm looking at now is under there are spots, and to prove their point, they get a spike and they hit it and it's got a charge on it, and when they take the spike out, you know what comes out? Fire. There's methane gas under all that. When we get to that point that this melting of snow falls and we get to that level, you're going to see all hell break loose. If you think you've seen high tides now and rising water, maybe I won't see it. But I'm afraid my grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to have a different life than what we're accustomed to. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I'm gonna say the last comments, we're gonna bring it to a close, gentlemen. I know we have some councilmen that need to go, and we have some other agenda items. I was hesitant about supporting this, but I'm listening. And thank you, Mr. Miranda, for your comments earlier, because you tell it and tell the public how it should be, what we're doing. Mr. Central, thank you for telling what you said. We're bringing in some dirty stuff. We clean it and we throw it back out and it comes back in. And what upsets me with government and with staff, and Mr. Carlson, it goes back to you with communicating to the public. You guys always hear me tell about fear. People fear what they don't know. People fear what they don't know, Mr. Dingfelder. And that's why we come to these type of situations, these fighting rings, because people are fearful. I'm fighting for my life. When all we have to do is engage the public and don't be afraid to tell the public the truth of what they need to know. And you'll be able to get what you need to get. And we won't have all this fighting. I know what we drink. I put the water right here on the counter. We can't be afraid. When we do this community engagement and spend this kind of money, you need to have video presentations showing, is Mr. Weber there?
Yes, he's here.
He needs to be having a presentation to show people what happens when water comes into his systems, how it's filtrated, where does it go out to this ocean, to the river, how does it come back in, and the new type of projects or alternatives we're looking at to make sure the process is cleaner. Mr. Dingfelder, you got pills in the water now you drink. I mean, it's probably purified now and clean better now. We have to be able to educate the public to what we're doing. And we cannot be afraid because we think, oh, politically, oh, we don't want to tell the people this and that. Bull. I hate that. And if I was a police officer, I just couldn't go to nobody and just give them a line of garbage. I had to tell them the truth. Here it is. This is what happened. This is why I got to do what I got to do. This is why we're having this situation. And we have to stop treating the public that way, and we won't have these kind of issues, and we're just up front with them. Be up front. I want to support it today on the mere fact we're talking about the communication to get it out to the public to find these other alternatives, and the alternatives been added in there. But what I'm saying, when this comes back, I want to see how we met with those neighborhood associations. I want to see how we engage the general public with PSAs. We spend this type of money, there should be PSAs. Literature to leave with the neighborhood associations. That's engagement. Your sanitation workers, your water department guys, your meter readers, putting something on doors. That's engagement. When we run for office, we knock on doors, right, Mr. Dingfelder? Yeah. We engage the public. I talked about that with the rehab program. You need to knock on doors. Same concept. I'm not being angry. I'm being passionate about what we have to do for our citizens, to give them the knowledge and to know. And they won't be angry with us. We're wasting their dollars or just throwing something down their throats. Tell them what they need to know. Right now, we're cleaning toilet water now. We're doing what we need to do. And if that's going to be the process to where we got a better process to clean the potty water, then so be it. But you got to be able to engage the public. I'll end on that. We have items number 20, 21, 22, and 23. Is there a motion on that from Mr. Dean for the chair?
Second.
Mr. Scalco has moved it. Mr. Rand has seconded it. Roll call.
Question on the motion.
Question on the motion. Think folks.
And that includes the caveat and the offer from the administration to come back.
Let's have Ms. Duncan put it on the record.
Okay, with an amendment to the existing contract to raise the additional alternatives.
Ms. Duncan, are you speaking for the mayor on the discussion Mr. Dingfelder is having you to put that in the criteria for this motion to move?
Yes, sir. I confirm the request from council regarding amending the contract, analyzing all the alternatives, bringing that information back to a workshop later this spring, late spring or fall. We'll land on that month as we go forward. And we're going to continue to earn every vote that we seek from this board. We've shown that in the last two discussions with you that we've modified our step we're planning to take to accommodate your interests and the public's interests. And we fully appreciate and hold it in high regard, trust and confidence that you do have in us. And we're going to work every day to make sure that we maintain that confidence and trust and be as transparent as possible. So thank you so much.
I'd like to see some type of document that Mr. Dean on how we engage the public so we can know the public was truly engaged. I think that is the biggest concern, how the public will be engaged and making sure we have some end results of how that was done at the end report of the situation.
Yes, sir, we'll plan to provide a full report with those details so you can see exactly the engagement types and amounts and frequencies and so forth that we've undertaken.
And Gene, just for clarification, when I talk about the alternatives, I'm saying that those alternatives should be included when we go out to the public, not just included in further council discussion. Do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Motion on
Chairman.
the floor, there was discussion. Mr. Viera.
Very briefly, if I may, I want to, just for the sake of the public, because we had so many emails and folks come that, again, what we're voting on here today is for engagement and for a number of options, an expanded number of options compared to what was there before, to be vetted not only through the professional process, but as Councilman Dingfelder said correctly, an engagement with the public. That's what we're voting on today. I say that because, again, there were a number of allegations made in emails. What I would suggest to folks is, you want to discuss this, I'd be more than happy to have a meeting with anybody who wants to discuss this with city staff so that we can acquire the information. When I say we, I mean myself included, because, again, I'm not an expert on this issue. I make inquiries because I want the information so I can make an informed vote. Thank you very much.
I think the legend has something he wants to
Mr.
say.
Chairman, if I may ask Mr. Walters, who's there, and Mr. Baird, I believe that the water department, from having conversation with them, limited to some degree, regarding how water is produced. I believe there's going to be some changes where there's going to be a visitor center. Am I correct, Chuck and Brad?
Check that.
That's correct.
At the water department, and have a process where they can tour and see what happens and how these things have come about. And really, we should do the same thing to show the public what happens at the tertiary treatment plant and how that process goes on. It should be an education for all of us, not for me or for anybody, but for all of us to understand what we are doing. This is their plant, this is their chemicals, this is their life. And this thing has got to be shown to the public. And I know that it's difficult to take 400,000 people there. I don't expect 400,000 people to go, but I expect some people to say, I want to go on that tour. You sign up, the bus picks you up and takes you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Citro, then you'll be sitting, and we're going to bring it to a close.
And going on Councilman Vieira's statements, we have received over 100 emails. I want to make sure that we receive and file those, so that all those are in the records.
If I can, I'm sorry, Mr. Citro, I want to address that after we can do
Thank
that.
you very much. And I just have to say this. This is some work that we were going to have to do. With the people that are moving into this area, this is work we were going to have to do. But it has been expedited by the Tallahassee that has mandated that we do this. This is just more overriding of local rule. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Carlson?
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm respectfully going to have to vote no, because it still is led by a construction company and the terms with design build. But I want to say that I very much appreciate Whit and Gene and the mayor and chief of staff and anybody who was involved. This is in my opinion, this is a completely different discussion than the ones we've had before. And I hopefully this is the start or reset of an open, transparent effort in communicating with the public in an open, transparent way, looking at all the alternatives, not even just the ones that have been on the table. And I take Gene and Whit at their word also that they're going to do a good job here. We really have the chance to build trust with the community, and I appreciate so much the new attitude and new direction. And I even though I'll vote against it, I of course wish you success for the community, and I hope that by the next time I'll be able to vote yes. Thank you.
All right. Motion on the floor by Mr. Maniscalco. I think it was seconded by Mr. Miranda. Roll call.
Vieira. Yes. Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Carlson.
No.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Carlson voting no.
All right.
Thank you, Council.
Think we left off on items number 70, 71, and 72. and 3. Correct, Madam Clerk? All right, let's get to work.
If I can, Mr. Chairman.
You recognize?
Thank you. Martin Shelby, those were all open, is that correct, Madam Clerk?
They're all open, correct?
They're all open.
All right. All right, we have staff for item number 70.
Rebecca Johns, legal department is here.
All right, you may begin.
This is just a second reading. We don't have much to add from the first reading, other than we wanted to let you know that we've been in contact with the Bay Area Apartment Association. We have answered some questions, addressed some of their concerns. We have advised them that we will continue to be available to provide assistance when rolling out to this ordinance so that the public understands what the ordinance means. We also have the required notice of tenants' rights that will be coming to council February 17th for your approval.
Mr. Citro, you have a question, sir?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Don't want to dwell on preemption. However, Tallahassee passed its own Tenants' Bill of Rights. Will this preempt anything that we're planning on doing with this ordinance?
I do not believe so. We are still investigating that, but we don't think that it will affect ours.
I sincerely hope that you are correct, and enough with preemption. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, any other questions? All right, we've got 5 at the table.
I'm just gonna say that I wish I could vote yes, but I can't control the price of eggs, the price of milk, I can't control. No presidents get blamed and sometimes lose the presidency because they give them the bad thing that they control the price of gasoline. They do not. No matter if you're Republican, Democrat, or independent, you cannot control the price of gas. So therefore, I'm gonna respectfully vote no, because I don't have and you can check all the residents. I run a trust, and the trust, anytime you want to see what I charge or the trust charges, you're welcome to look at it.
No need, sir. All right,
Public?
yeah, I'm gonna get there. That Mr. Dingfelder raised his hand right quick. Mr. Sir?
Yes, sir. I'm not going to support the ordinance this time. I've given it a lot of additional thought. The two prongs of this ordinance is this notification of the tenant's rights. That's the first part in terms of a piece of paper or some sort of documentation about, to tell the tenants, what their rights are and that sort of thing. I think we could do that, on our website or through other means, as opposed to creating a whole nother bureaucracy trying to figure out, did the landlord give them the paper? Did they sign it? Did they stick it away in their file, et cetera? And then what do we do when they didn't? That's number one. And then the second part of this is basically insinuating a mandate that people have to accept Section 8 vouchers. And I think that's a fiction. I think even if we adopt it and we say that that's the case, I think it's a fiction. And I don't like to operate in a fictional world, because at the end of the day, no landlord has to abide by the rules and regulations of the HUD and the housing department and take on Section 8, even if we say they can't discriminate. Well, sure, they can't discriminate, and we all agree with that. But they can say, from a financial or business perspective, I don't want to deal with those regulations. So, again, I don't like to fool people into thinking that we're accomplishing something, but I don't think this ordinance does. So I'm not going to support it.
All right, anyone else? All right, anyone from the public talk on the side? You want a second floor, speak on the side.
No speakers down the second floor.
Thank you, sir. Anyone ready to speak on the side?
Chair, we had 2 people register, however, neither are logged on at this time.
Ms. Maniscalco, move to close, second by Mr. Miranda. Ms. Maniscalco?
We have to vote to close.
Vote to close, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. Maniscalco?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, amending the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, to add Article 7, Tenants' Bill of Rights, and the prohibition of source of income discrimination, and Sections 12-140 to 12-145 within said article, providing for a title, providing for definitions, providing for a requirement to provide tenants with a notice of rights, providing for a prohibition on source of income discrimination, providing for enforcement and penalties for violations, providing for exemptions, amending sections 12-4A, 12-5E, 19-4A, and 23.5-5D of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances in connection with this new Article 7, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
We have a second on the ordinance? We have a second on the ordinance?
Okay.
Well,
I don't
Mr.
believe I can give it a second, right?
Chairman,
Mr.
although I'm not going to support it, I can second the motion. I can't be the maker of the motion, but I'll second the motion for a vote.
All right, Mr. Miranda has seconded. Roll call.
Dingfelder?
No.
Carlson?
No.
Maniscalco? Yes. Viera? Citro?
No.
Miranda?
No?
And Goose.
Yes.
Motion failed with Dingfelder, Carlson, Citro, and Miranda voting no, and Viera being absent at vote.
All right. Yes, sir, Mr. Shelby.
Quasi-judicial, but is there another motion that's in order? The motion did fail, and it's on for second reading and adoption. So I just want to be clear that normally if it was a quasi-judicial matter, in order for council to take action on something that's before it, it requires a vote of 4. So that being the case, this motion failed, but I don't know whether that constitutes a denial. So my recommendation would be if there's a motion to deny it, you don't have to state forth the reasons, but I would think that.
The motion to deny?
Well, this is not,
Go ahead, Mr. Rand, please. Go
I'm
ahead.
not a lawyer, and I'm not, I think this is a separate, this is not a land zoning where you have to answer as to waivers and all that. This is just an up or down motion for second reading, and I'm not, you may ask, maybe we can get, I'm not questioning this attorney's ability and to say that, but maybe we should get the legal department to give us, we have to do that or not.
No, Mr. Miranda, that's fine. I think we can leave
Yeah,
it, I think we can leave it stay,
I understand. I'm not
I think we could leave it
questioning you at
stay where it is. I understand what you're saying, and this is certainly a legislative matter. It did not pass, and we'll let the record reflect the council did not vote in favor of it. That's it. The motion did not pass.
All right, well, did not pass, very disappointed, but you know, it is what it is. Item number 71.
Yeah, hi, Ross Salmons, Development Coordination, presenting item number 71, VAC 21-11. This ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. It's an ordinance vacating and closing, discontinuing, and abandoning right-of-way located south of Oakwood Avenue, north of Ocean View Place, east of CXX Railroad right-of-way, and west of 20th Street, within the plat of Edgewood Park and subdivision of the City of Tampa. Staff is available if you have any questions.
Any question for staff? No questions? All right, anybody here to speak on this item? Anyone to speak on this item? Second floor.
Are you going to the public now?
Yeah.
Thank you. Second floor.
Anyone on second floor for this item, number 71? I think so. I think so. Yep.
We're going to make some changes on the procedures, I think.
Yeah, they need to be a little bit closer, man. All right, I don't think there's anybody down there. Anybody registered for this item, Madam Clerk?
No one is registered.
Move to
All right.
second.
Mr. Maniscalco, move to close. Mr. Miranda, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Carlson?
Yes, sir. I'd like to move file number VAC 21-11, ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, ordinance vacating, closing, discontinuing, or abandoning a right-of-way alleyway located south of Oakwood Avenue, north of Ocean View Place, east of the CSX Railroad right-of-way, and west of 20th Street, within the plat of Edgewater Park subdivision in the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, as more fully described in section 1 hereof, subject to certain covenants, conditions, and restrictions as more particularly set forth herein, and providing an effective date.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda, roll call.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera, Citro,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Viera being absent at vote.
All right, I know Mr. Citro has to run. He has two motions, I believe he wants to get in.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and Council, if I could. My first motion is to move to have staff report on the implications of the passage of Senate Bill 620, Local Business Protection Act, and the House companion bills, House Bill 403 and 569. They are all the preemptions to end all preemptions, and how they may impact the administration's and the council's decisions on making future ordinance should they pass. March 11th is the date.
And seconded by Mr. Dingfelder. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm sorry, could
Motion
I have that
granted.
date again, please? I'm
March
sorry.
11th, was it? Mr.
Mar-
Citro?
March 11th, is that a date that's available?
You have the 3rd or the 17th.
All right, let's make it 17th. Let's do a type error.
Anything else, sir?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. The U.S. House of Representatives and Tampa's own Congresswoman Kathy Castor shared a work plan regarding the distributions of monies from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. This money will help modernize our infrastructure, help our competitive edge in the world marketplace, create paying jobs, improve our communities through smart investment and growth. I want to check with our administration to see how we are going to go after some of these funds so that we can help important projects and improve the lives of Tampaños. This motion is for city staff to report to the City of Tampa's efforts to apply for funding through the Infrastructure Investment Act and Jobs Act, and into what projects the city would potentially prioritize the utilization of this funding. Again, can we have that on the same March 17th?
Second by Mr. Dingfelder. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sue Lane, you have those motions.
All right, we'll get back to item number 72.
Ross Emmons, Development Coordination, presenting item number 72, VAC 21-17. This ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption of ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning a right-of-way located south of Forest Avenue, north of Columbus Drive, east of Telfair Avenue, and west of Mitchell Avenue within the plat of Centralia, a subdivision of the City of Tampa. Staff is available for questions.
Any questions for staff? Yep, 72. All right, we have an applicant to speak on this item? Everybody speak on this item?
We have Mr. Andrew Fobb register, however, he is not logged on at this time.
All right. Anybody on the second floor speak on this item? Ms. Debbie just said, was nobody down there? Anybody registered, Madam Clerk?
No one is registered.
Mr. Miranda, let's move to close. Second by Mr. Maniscalco, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Dingfelder? 72.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regard to file VAC 21-17, I'll move the following ordinance for second reading and adoption. An ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning a right-of-way alleyway located south of Forest Avenue, north of Columbus Drive, east of Taliaferro Avenue, and west of Mitchell Avenue, within the plat of Centralia, a subdivision in the City of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, as more fully described in Section 1 hereof, subject to certain covenants, conditions, and restrictions as more particularly set forth herein, providing for enforcement and penalties for violation, providing for definitions, interpretations, and repealing conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, I'm sorry.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Viera, Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
and Goose.
Yes,
Motion carried unanimously with Viera and Citro being absent at vote.
all right. Last item of the day, number 73.
Yeah, if I could ask to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
I'd like to ask the clerk to share my screen, please. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Good. Ross Amos Development Coordination, presenting number item 73, VAC 19-16. Hang on, sorry. Okay. The applicant is requesting to vacate the alley located at 3120 West Braddock Street. The alley lies south of Braddock Street, north of Leroy Street, and runs from Matanzas Avenue to McDill Avenue. This alley is located south of Raymond J. Stadium in Tampa. This application was filed 9/16/2021. The applicant owns a parcel to the north side of the alley, requests to be vacated. The alley is blocked on both ends by fencing and is inaccessible. Also, additional footage this will add additional footage to the rear yard to make occurring encroachment into setbacks compliant. There are no existing code violations to this property. The applicant requesting to vacate the alley located at 3120 West Braddock Street. The right-of-way existing is 6,300 square feet. It's unimproved grass, does not show any apparent use by abutting owners. It's completely fenced at the west end and partially fenced at the east end. Existing wastewater facilities are within the alley and require an easement with condition that no structures except fencing be constructed within the easement area. The alley continues east or west of the subject alley. The alley to the west of Matanzas Avenue is completely fenced and not accessible. The alley east of McDill Avenue is open and grass. The subject property and the alley to be vacated. Requested vacated. Again, the alley within the plat and previous vacated alleys. This is the alley looking east from Matanzas Avenue. Alley looking west from McDill Avenue. The applicant's property looking south from Braddock Street. The continuation of the alleyway looking east of McDill Avenue. This is not to be vacated. Continuation of the alleyway looking west of Matanzas, not to be vacated. The staff have no objections to the vacating request based on responses received from reviewing agencies. If the vacating request is approved by council, an overall easement for wastewater is required. Thank you.
Any questions? Mr. Dingfelder, recognized.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman,
Ross.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Dingfelder. I just want to inform City Council that I don't see there's anybody registered for this. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct. No one registered for this item.
And I was informed downstairs that the applicant was present today, but is not present now for the hearing. So I just want to bring that to council's attention.
Okay. My question was for Ross. Ross, could you go back to the map that shows?
Sure.
What's going to be vacated yeah, there you go. So is it from end to end? Is it, what is that, Matanzas on one side, McDill on the other?
Correct.
Okay, now go to the photograph. The photograph on one side, you had a PVC fence. Is that the Matanzas side or the McDill?
Yeah, that's Matanzas side.
Okay. And then do you have a shot from the McDill side?
Yes, here.
Okay, it's a little hard to see what's going on there. Can you zoom that a little bit, or? So my question is, you state the justification for vacating is the fact that there's a fence on the end, but right now I'd say that's an illegal fence. Would you?
Correct.
Okay, and has that person been cited for an illegal fence?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Do we know what the status is up and down there? I don't want you to have to jump in and wrestle with alligators, but
Sure.
Were you able to walk in there or anything, or what?
No, it's inaccessible.
Even on the McDill side?
The current project that's going on here, it's overgrown towards the middle, but you can access it here somewhat, maybe half of it.
Okay, so there's no indication that anybody's ever used this, no tire tracks?
No.
No, nothing. And how about the West Tampa overlay? The West Tampa folks seem to feel strongly about preserving and using their alleys. Is this in the West Tampa overlay?
It is not. Hold on one moment.
No?
I don't think so. Hang on.
Okay. I'm not sure what the boundaries are of the West Tampa overlay, but I know we've had some lengthy discussions about alleys in West Tampa recently.
Sure. And that's the reason I was wanting to show this, these previously vacated alleys within this plat in close vicinity and certain blocks.
So in block 31 there and block 44 on either side of the subject block 39?
They're still considered open alleyways.
Are they, well, I know they're not vacated because that's what you're showing, but are they functional? Are they being used?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ross.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we don't have the applicant here, for Mr. Shelby. There's no one on the second floor. We'll make sure no one on the second floor and no one registered, correct? Correct. All right, move close.
Second.
Ms. Maniscalco, second Mr. Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Miranda, last one of the day, 73?
Yes, sir. Number 72, file number VAC-21-7.
73.
73? Okay, 73, I'm sorry. 73, file number VAC 19-16, orders being presented for first reading consideration. An orders vacating, closing, discontinuing, abandoning a portion of right-of-way alley located south of Braddock Street, north of Leroy Street, east of Matanzas Avenue, and west of MacDill Avenue, within the plat of John H. Drew First Extension, a subdivision in the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, as more particularly described in section 1 thereof, subject to certain covenants, conditions, restrictions, and more particularly set forth wherein, providing an effective date.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Mr. Shelby?
Yes, if we could ask staff to reach out to the applicant, please, because of the fact that they need to be notified. They are not going to be here unless they're watching it, of when the second reading and the public hearing is. This was only for first reading consideration. The adoption public hearing will be coming back, and I would ask that staff reach out to the applicant to ensure that applicant is aware of that, and hopefully will be here if there's any other issues that may come up at second reading. Thank you.
All right, roll call.
Maniscalco? Yes. Carlson?
Yes.
Vieira? Citro? Miranda?
Yes.
Dingfelder?
Yes.
And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Vieira and Citro being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 3rd, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
All right, Mr. Shelby? Anything, sir? Oh, yeah, we still, we moved them, right? Man. Hold a second. Man, I'm thinking, hold on a second, I'm thinking,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Okay, we only have one sheet, that's fine, that's fine. For everybody, but I believe I voted out.
So we mute our devices, please? 75, yep, remove
Second.
75, second by Mr. Dingfelder, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, motion granted.
Second.
All right, Mr. Miskowska again, Mr. Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, motion granted, all right. You know I'm tired, man. Number 78. We got through 76, 77.
Did we approve 78 and 79?
No. No, we asked, you want them here, huh?
No, I didn't want them there.
Barrett is online.
Did anybody want them there? Charlie,
No,
did you
I
want
don't-
78 and
no.
79? All right, I'll move 78 and 79.
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Miranda. Will roll call vote on that, sir?
Yes.
Yep.
Citro, Viera, Maniscalco. Miranda.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Number 80.
In light of the time, I could be persuaded to defer this for a month or two.
I persuade you then.
All right.
A date?
The chief might not want to be persuaded because he's already on there.
Oh, the chief?
Yeah.
That's not Chief Delgado, that's
No, it's,
Delgado.
that their staff is there. Let's go and hear it out.
All right,
Let's hear it out. You hear
Let's
it?
hear it out as long as
You
they're
hear
here.
Number 80.
So Chief, let me cut to the chase, or all the chiefs and Ms. Sullivan. So the discussion we had a couple of months ago, or I guess back in August, that initiated this motion, from my perspective was, I got the memo, it says we offer services, okay? But I just wonder, and I know it's a sensitive subject with the various departments as well as with the unions and the employees themselves, but I just wonder are there certain situations, certain activities, that sort of thing that will automatically trigger a mandatory, mental health assistance to the employees? In other words, and Councilman Goods, you've told us about it, but you see traumatic things, you deal with traumatic things. Is there anything in our rules, regs, or what have you that would trigger and say, just like the use of a weapon. The use of a weapon, the person goes on automatic leave until the investigation's over, et cetera, et cetera. Do we have anything, triggering mechanisms as related?
Fitness for duty.
Fitness for duty. Okay, thank you. How's that for a hot potato, Chief? Whichever chief wants to jump in first.
Okay, I can start first. Good afternoon, Council. Barbara Tripp, Tampa Fire Rescue. So speaking on the fire department we are exposed to a lot of critical and tragic incidents. And in situations like that, we automatically initiate the critical incident stress debriefing team, in which the crews will be debriefed. And then we will have diffuse, and then we will have a debriefing. Throughout that, we will do some evaluation of the peers that's in there. We will bring additional peers in who are firefighters who have experience and who's been trained and counseled, to be able to understand what the individual might have faced and went through. We also give them some literature and explain to them, to give to the family to have more eyes on that individual because they've been exposed to, an abnormal situation. And sometimes their reaction can be normal to an abnormal situation. So with that being said, once we do that debriefing, we monitor the individuals. And if they need additional assistance, we make the appropriate recommendation. So that's part of what fire does whenever it comes to a situation like that. As well as being an officer, all of the officers in the station have personnel to make sure they're fit for duty. And if the individual is not fit for duty, they make additional recommendations to administration for them to seek help. And of course, HR can fill in as far as the different services that we have, the EAP, we have the Wellness Center. So we have additional resources out there, to provide it voluntary as well as mandatory.
Chief, thanks for that. Just one last question. Is there is there any tool or mechanism, rule, or whatever else that you feel the department could use to, again, this is all about helping our employees, get through those difficult times. So, and making sure they do, because I'm sure there's a lot of macho out there, or whatever the female version of macho is, and where they might not want to, they might resist. They don't want to have that on their record, whatever. But it's important to.
It's called a fitness for duty.
Yeah, it's important to the individual, and it's important to the community that they get help, and the same with TPD. But anyway, any tools, mechanisms, or whatever that you'd like to see added to what you have right now?
Sir, at the moment, I think we're fine because we have a lot of resources. We have the Francis Center, the Operation Restore, so we have a lot of different that if individuals don't want to get, when I say their employer involved in, the employee can actually go out on their own and seek that additional assistance at the moment.
Okay.
And I can speak for fire. Since I've been in this position, I haven't had anyone in particular or any individual that need additional assistance besides what we have. And I'll let Chief Burkhall speak as far as law enforcement.
All right. So Chief, same kind of questions to you, and I appreciate you appearing today.
Absolutely. I figured you wouldn't think I was Chief Delgado when I had no hair. So I used his logo.
But you're otherwise much better looking, I'm going to tell you that.
Council Chair Goods is correct about the fitness for duty. And what you may not know, Council, is we've expanded our mandatory use. Before, if you were involved in a deadly force situation, we would mandate a psychological screening. Now we've expanded that to if you were in a near deadly force situation as opposed to just being in a deadly force. And we've added on a mandatory 45-day follow-up on top of that. So it's mandatory. There's no option there. So that, in addition to the fitness for duty, the pre-employment, and then psychological screening for certain specialty squads. And certain ones, like our internet crimes against children, we mandate that they go every year. So that's not optional. And a couple other things that we highlighted in our memo that I wanted to just bring to a point is Chief Tripp mentioned Operation Restore. But in addition to that, we have a partnership with the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay, and they have a lifeline support for first responders in crisis. And they can call that number and speak to somebody trained to deal with a first responder in that imminent crisis. And then the last question would say is, do we have everything we need? At this time, we think we would, but we're partnering with BJA's Valor program, and they're assisting us in going through and giving us technical assistance and training. So if we don't, we think that we're going to glean it from the Valor technical assistance that we have.
Okay, and thank you, Chief. Thank you both, Chiefs. A little birdie tells me that sometimes it can take months in order to get seen, by the various psychologists or psychiatrists or counselors that are available. I don't know if either chief has heard about those delays. I can't swear to them, but that's just what a little birdie just came and whispered in my ear. But perhaps Ms. Sullivan, do you have anything to help us on that one?
I could tell you that we have Dr. Bailey assigned to us for the mandatory psychological screenings, and she's been able to make appointments right away, and we have not had any issues with that. Maybe it's on the private side, not mandated.
I'll let Ms. Sullivan speak, but I knew there was one situation where the proper documentation and paperwork was not processed the way it should. We have alleviated that if that's concerning one of fire individuals, and that has been alleviated.
Okay, and the HR have anything to add to any of this? Your audio's off.
Madam Clerk, help her out. Is there an icon that she can click on?
Well, we still do not have you. We've got you video, but not audio.
Click on the orange mic to unmute yourself.
Thank you. It
There
said
we
it was
go.
muted by the organizer, but thank you, Kimberly Sullivan, Employee Relations Manager. I can speak for the entire city, but primarily for our general employees with regards to timeliness of appointments for mental health. We are typically able to get our employees appointments with our EAP provider the exact same day. If that has been a concern, I hope they will bring it to our attention, but we have really stressed to our EAP provider that we really need them quickly, and we've been able to get them in same day or day after. And that does include our police officers and firefighters that choose to take advantage of the EAP program.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I'm good for today. Thanks to all three of you, and excellent reports, and sounds like everybody's on top of it, and we all care about our employees, and obviously you do too. So.
You recognize, sir?
General comment, you know, in regards to mental health in general, I think we need to eliminate the stigma that that it's not okay to say that you need help or that someone is struggling. I know that the services are here offered to all city employees and police and fire, and we appreciate you being here. But I think the message that needs to be put out there is that no matter who you are, no matter how tough you think you are, no matter if you're worried about criticism, whatever, it's okay to ask for help. There's nothing more important than your health, and especially your mental health, because people go through a lot of stressful situations, whether early on in life or during their careers, whatever it is. But again, we have to eliminate the stigma. We can't criticize those that struggle, because we're human and we all struggle, and it's okay to ask for help. And the services that we provide are to better ourselves, to help one another. And it was said earlier when we approved the hire of a new department head, and we said, welcome to the family. We have to remember we're a family. And the city of Tampa, we have thousands of employees, and we have to make sure that each and every employee knows, no matter if they're police, fire, and city council, whatever it is, that help is available. You will not be criticized. You will not be made fun of. That it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to reach out, and those services are available. So that's it.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate you. All right, item number 81.
I believe that's me as well. Item number 81.
Yes, ma'am.
I will send you all the memo, but I guess it didn't get to you in time. But once again, Barbara Tripp for item number 81, where administration is to work with real estate to provide report and progress. So just to let you know that I have meetings with real estate as well as other departments to make sure we get the needs for the Tampa Fire Rescue. Throughout 2021, we have met 8 times. Our last meeting was the first of the year. We met again. We have developed some property that we are looking to possibly do the public safety building as well. We are waiting for that final report, and I had a meeting earlier with the business. We had a little holdback, but I should have the report within a couple of weeks. And with that said, we have obtained some property that we're looking for future resources for fire as needed.
Steve Fodor, recognized.
Thank you, Chief. I recall Mr. Vieira's not here, but I think he was one of the ones who brought it up. And this might have started before you switched over as chief, but I recall discussions about downtown and about Channelside and about our needs, potential real estate needs in those areas because of the growth downtown and Channelside in terms of population and also in terms of additional high rises. Now we got Water Street. There's a lot of stuff. My mother got here in 1954, and I drove her downtown the other day, and she was like, "Oh my God, that's not the city I moved to." But anyway, so what are our downtown needs, and are we looking for real estate or in the downtown area? That's what we talked about, I think, last summer.
So based on, like I say, we're waiting on this report, and it has been a delay, and I truly apologize. But of course, we know COVID played a big part in that. Speaking with and just reviewing some of the analysis that we have, it's much more than just putting a fire station. It's much more putting resources and adjusting the system that we have now. So if you want to put this off, I can give you additional information as far as the need, that, you know, if it needs to be a fire station, if it needs to be rescue cars, if it needs to be transport, whatever the need is. But that report is definitely going to identify a lot of the resources that we need within the city limits.
And what sort of date are you comfortable with to come back on that? 90 days or so? 3 months?
Sure. Yes, that would be perfect.
Madam Clerk? 3 months? What might that take us to? Let's see, we're at the beginning of February. May 3rd? May 5th? Staff report? Okay, motion to continue this May 5th staff
Second.
report.
Second, Mr. Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, number 82. Staff, cemeteries.
Jennifer Moore with the Planning Commission. I'm here for item 82. I do have one PowerPoint slide I can share with the City Council if I can have permission to share my screen. So as Council is aware, we were directed to look into the possibility of creating a cemetery future land use category. Our staff reviewed several jurisdictions throughout the country and conducted research looking at different comprehensive plans and future land use maps. We found that only a few cities had a cemetery future land use category. So based on that, our recommendations before you today are to include cemeteries in the descriptions of the future land use designation of public, semi-public, and recreational open space. As you all are aware, a lot of the city-owned cemeteries are also on the dedicated park list, and those have been converted to the recreational open space future land use category. The comprehensive plan also needs a definition of cemeteries, so we would work on drafting that. And we'd also work on drafting a policy recognizing the importance and encouraging the protection of cemeteries in the plan. We will continue to work with the City of Tampa staff and their planning department during the plan amendment process. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Carlson, you recognize.
No, thank you all for doing all that research. I know this is an important issue for the community. So what's the next step? Do we need to make a motion today, or will you all just come back?
If council would like to make a motion to just have us initiate a plan amendment as part of the February cycle, you can certainly do that. We've gotten started on it, but having that motion, we'll get going in the February 2022 cycle.
So I'd like to move that then.
All right, motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. Mr. Shelby, we come to the end of our journey.
So item number 83 is just a receive and file, so that's no action taken there. And item number 86 is no staff was requested, so there's no action taken and no presentation there.
All right. Okay, anything else for today, Mr. Shelby?
Yes, last week there were two votes where council members abstained, Councilmember Dingfelder and Councilmember Carlson. On January 27th, I provided those conflict forms with their signatures, Forms 8B, to the clerk. Also received from Mr. Carlson were Forms 8B for today's abstention, so those, I'd ask that all of those be received and filed, please.
Motion received and filed.
Second.
Miranda's, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you. And council, I just want to give you a brief update that this past Thursday, the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee has met. During that meeting, they had decided to set regularly scheduled meetings for the third Wednesday of each month beginning in March. And they're undertaking a process of seeing how they're going to be moving forward as a committee. And certainly they're energized and they're engaged. And frankly, council, I believe that I'm going to assist them in establishing processes. But it appears, council, that they perhaps may need some additional administrative support with all the things that they wish to have undertaken. And of course, I've been in touch with the Chief of Staff just to also inform him because obviously what they do involves gathering information from the administration. So I just want to give you that little progress report, and they may actually be coming back to council in some form or fashion. I understand that they are, by motion of City Council, coming back to report on the issue of, I believe it's Councilmember Carlson made that motion, but it's going to be coming back in April. And they'll be meeting again in advance of that to prepare for that. So I just wanted to bring that to...
Question on the comment.
You're recognized.
Ms. Shelby, one thing that I think we've all noticed over the years that we've served as related to the citizens, what is it called?
The Budget and Finance Advisory Committee.
A lot of people, good people, put in a lot of hard work and hours on that, and then they bring forth recommendations to us, but the timing is always messed up because, you know, it comes back to us like, you know, just on the eve of the final budget, you know, budget meetings, and, you know, right there at the 11th hour. And frankly, in the 9 or 10 years that I've been involved in the process, we don't really have a good chance to realistically address their comments and concerns, because it's like it's too late. And so what I corresponded with the chair of that committee on this issue last week, and he agrees. But I will urge our CFO, Dennis, as well as Mr. Bennett and anybody else involved, to push that process back a little bit, so when they do make that presentation to us, and I think you remember this, Bill, right? When they make their presentation to us, there's a little more time built in. So as long as you're having those discussions with staff about resources and stuff, talk to them about process too.
And the board the committee is going to be focusing on process to be able to address that. That was one, actually, frankly, a topic of discussion about how they're going to move forward with that sort of, so they're going to be more engaged earlier on, it appears, in the process.
I wonder how they do it in Largo.
I think
I can tell you.
I think for me, watching the board for the past going on 3 years, I think previous to this, the new board of this 3 years, you can tell that the talent level of having actual people of financial experience and basis dealing with the issues versus I've seen budget committees in previous years that it really wasn't functional. But I think now they're functional and they're really doing the work they need to be doing. But I think they need a little guidance from Mr. Shelby so we can get them on the right page with the processes and maybe change some of the way it has been working previously, and also as far as the documents and so forth. So I think Mr. Shelby's on the right page to get them up and running right, and probably bring forth some change for this board here to maybe vote on, to maybe empower them to do what they need to do. So we'll wait for that report to come back, Mr. Shelby, so we can get it done. Because to me, it makes no sense that those folks do all that work and they come and bring us recommendations, and we sit here, you know, and they've done the work. And that's what they're empowered to do, to go do this work. But some say, well, they're advisory board. No, they are a board assigned to this council to bring us financial information about what they've uncovered, what they've seen, and so forth, to let us make sound-based decisions. So I think we need to make sure that we're giving them the right structure, the right power to really do their job and do it effectively, so we can make decisions when the budget comes here, so we can say, well, this is the budget finance is saying, and that way we can really ask really true questions. And like Mrs. Dingfellow says, they don't come the eve of that day when we could be asking questions maybe a month or two in advance. So if you would just carry that out, sir, that'd be great to do, sir.
Certainly, and I would think that they'll have the opportunity to hear your comments directly when they go online to hear the discussion at the end of this meeting today. Thank you.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir, I believe that's it for me. Thank you, Council.
Madam Scalco, anything, sir?
It's shooting for a 7 o'clock adjournment, but I'll take 4:04 p.m. Thank you.
Mr. Carlson.
We all know it's Carol Post's last couple weeks, and I would recommend we give her a thank you commendation on this next, was it next week, or on the 24th workshop. You want to do it? Is next week okay with you guys? I don't know. She's leaving in a couple weeks.
I mean, okay.
Planning workshop makes sense.
What day is that? I'm sorry? This coming?
Yeah, do a planning workshop. Should be there anyway.
All right, well,
20
she'll be at the planning workshop, so, we don't know we're doing a combination, but this was a little special here. She's
You wanna
leading
do that?
it.
24th.
You wanna do a
24th?
planning workshop?
Yeah, so the 24th, so I'd like to make a motion to give a combination to Carol Post to thank her for her service on the 24th
All right,
at the
second by
workshop.
Mr. Maniscalco, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Anything else, sir?
Nope, thank you.
Anything further?
Yes. Sorry, Guido, I got a couple. We've been getting emails in regard to the proposed Lamb Canal. I don't know if y'all have seen that. It's in the Sunset Park area, and anyway, I won't go into great detail. I've had communication with Jean Duncan and her staff. There's a lot of neighborhood objection to it, significant tree removal, a lot of neighborhood disruption, and people need more information. And frankly, again, like the other thing we talked about earlier, they want to know about alternatives, alternative analysis. So with that, I'd like, I'll give them 6 weeks to come back March 17th and ask for a staff report and an update on the Lamb Canal project.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rand, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you. Secondly, in regard to affordable housing, you guys were kind enough to put me on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and I've become a lot more knowledgeable about affordable housing. One thing that's been pointed out to me by some of the folks in the community who are very knowledgeable on affordable housing is that the city of Tampa, we all walk around and say, we need housing, we need affordable housing, we need workforce housing. But the reality is I don't think we've really done a study, just a hard and fast needs study for affordable and workforce housing, and maybe all housing. So we kind of, I think we're just sort of shooting in the air without having, and I hate to say it, but a consultant needs to come in and do a comprehensive analysis and study. And I've been told that when you have that study, it makes it easier to go for grants and stuff like that. So I'd like staff to at least come back to us in 2 weeks and just tell us what their thoughts are about an affordable housing, or I'll just say a housing needs study.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carlson, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Obviously, I won't expect them to have the needs study done by then. Yes, ma'am. As long as you tell me we have time for that. No? Oh, yes, okay. I'm sorry, next one, I'll put that one off. Okay, and then the last one I've got is, we received this letter from the Gulf Coast Building and Construction Trades Council, and also from TOBA, two different organizations that are looking at sort of our Hannah Avenue, our $100 million Hannah Avenue project very carefully in terms of making sure that all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted appropriately. So we have two different documents that I'm going to give to the clerk, one from Gulf Coast Building and Construction Trades Council, the other from TOBA. And I would
have them already. She have it already.
Okay, and I would ask that we ask staff when they come back to us on March 3rd for their Hannah Avenue report, that they also are fully prepared to answer these questions and comments. Sound good, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. All right, motion on the floor, second by Mr. Maniscalco, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
What was that for? Affordable housing needs study? How about 2 weeks after that?
That's March 3rd. We only have 4 items. right
Okay,
now.
March 3rd staff report. Modified the motion. That's
Second by
my-
Mr. Maniscalco, all in favor? Any
And that's
opposed?
with regard to the, if you could state it so the public knows.
That was
Mr.
in
Diefenbach.
regard to affordable housing needs study. We'll
Move the third.
do that on March 3rd.
Thank you.
Anything else, sir?
No, I'll wait on the other ones. Thank you.
All right, Mr.
Well, one thing, Mr. Chairman, I would like to request the council's indulgence in introducing Chamberlain Spanish teacher, Ms. Marion Dirks, and 17 of her students on February 17, 2022. I had the opportunity to speak to her class a few months ago, and students are very interested in the Tampa City Council and politics in general. They will be making a field trip to the City Council on February 17, 2022, and they plan to watch a portion of the meeting from the second floor. I would like to have the opportunity to recognize Mrs. Dirks and have each student introduced.
What
And
school
I
is that,
appreciate
Charlie?
your indulgence.
Chamberlain.
Chamberlain?
Chamberlain, sir?
Chamberlain.
Cool.
All right, second, Mr. Maniscalco, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you, Mr.
Anything
Chairman.
else?
That's it.
Pass the gavel, sir?
Yes, sir.
You have two quick ones, gentlemen. Sometimes we get very good seniors that are good community servants in our community, our parks and recreation departments. And I got a call about this lady. I knew her, and I know she's very dedicated. She passed away. So I'd like to make a motion to give the family of the late Mary Taylor, who recently passed away, a resolution for the members of the Tampa City Council, as she was dedicated and respectful, loyal senior for over 8 years at Williams Park. The resolution was presented at her services on Saturday, February 12, 2022.
All right, we have a motion from the chairman, a second by Mr. Randall. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Last one of the day, gentlemen. You know, Mr. Randall, you'd understand this being a ball coach. There have been a lot of recent violent things that are happening at our ball fields for our kids. We had a shooting. A lot of people don't know that Skyway Park is actually a city facility, but has a mutual agreement with the county. And a lot of
By the airport.
By the airport. A lot of the ball clubs play out there. There was a shooting, some people were shot and things like that. And for years, I had been telling our recreation department and the county recreation department that, hey, you have to change the way we do business, like Tallahassee, some other places, to where the city and county, they're together and are mutually involved, because what you have, you get a lot of requests, these backgrounds, they call us, want to complain. There's nowhere for these people to go to do anything. And a lot of issues that are going on with youth athletics, because now when you look at Facebook and I get so many calls, they're betting on the kids. They're betting on the games now. Kids are playing football year-round on fields, and I'm glad before I stopped coaching, I convinced our city department to stop tackle football all year round. You don't see it in college, you don't see it in high school, you don't see it in the NFL, but our youth kids are playing tackle football all year round. It's really beating them up. But the gist of this is sometimes we have to be together as a county and city together, do some of these things together, because these guys and girls sometimes are transit all over the place. They can't go here, get kicked out here, they go over there, and the cycle just continues. So I would like our recreation department director and her staff, and I would move that with recent activities that have occurred on local sports field, it's time we unify our municipalities by forming a youth sports advisory council. This group will be diversified and include selected stakeholders, high-level industrial leaders, experienced staff, and appointed community members. The statement of purpose shall be to allow the organized forum open communication to outline, suggest, and establish guidelines, processes, and procedures that will provide consistency and uniformity. Currently, each of our 4 local municipalities operate under their own directives and municipalities independently of each other. My motion suggests we look to restructure the face of youth sports and work towards higher levels of standards, consistency from district to district, with the ability to enact and share information interlocally, especially as it pertains to youth football. We're just going to get the last little section, Mr. Scow, because it's important. This council will also present innovative and on trend concepts applicable to the ever-growing youth sports industry. There'll be a primary focus on safety, the well-being of the child, and most importantly, ensuring a fulfilled experience at levels to include the participants, volunteers, parents, and families. If I can get that motion, sir.
So the only question I have on the motion, Mr. Chairman, is where do you want that to go next? Is it, you want to work with the administration?
I want our Parks and Recreation, like in the motion, to get with the other parks directors from the county, from Temple Terrace, and from Plant City, to get together and see if they can formulate this youth council to be able to merge some of these programs, especially, and I keep saying football, because football is the most, a lot of the football programs are failing now.
Yeah.
They're failing because they can't get good coaches. And back in my day, PAL was the thing back in my day, Mr. Miranda. Everybody, all the parks, even the county, everybody went to PAL. You had the recreational staff working and coaching. You had police officers. You had more people engaged. Now you don't have all that now because it's just not stable. It's just not. And it hurts me so bad when I was trying to tell our departments in the county before, you need to start looking at that. And now Skyway, which is one of our longest programs out there with tons and tons of program, is gone debunked now. Debunked. They're all, you know, now no one, I've been called where we play at now. The league is folded now because of this and that. You know, even with some of my other leagues that are folded because of lack of good leadership. And you've got certain communities that need that, but yet you don't have anybody to help run those programs.
So just as a furtherance of your motion, do you want to report back
Yeah.
from staff
Yeah.
on that issue?
Yeah,
How quickly?
I'm looking at, let's look at April. It's in April. They give them time to get with the other powers that be.
And get with you.
And get with me. And that way kind of understand where we're going because I get so many calls. Everybody know me still as coach and they call.
Well, I appreciate you bringing it up because without youth being active in some type of recreation, you have more downfall and the breakdown of the family. And I can only talk about myself, and not for me or against me, but when I was a young kid about that age in Ybor City, we only had one thing to go to. That was Cuscaden Park. And we only had one thing to do. It wasn't that we were great, it's that we practiced baseball year-round and became better players than the others because they only parted certain seasons. So I think I put on the helmet one time in football and I get hit a couple of times. I said, this is not my game. My game is just playing the baseball. But all of us at the park, we were there 7 days a week.
Starts in the park.
Whether we had a recreation director or not, we showed up. And that's how, what you're talking about reminds me of my youth. And I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion.
Receive and file.
Let's go to 7th.
We have a motion for staff report on that issue as well as a recommendation from council to the administration on that issue, April 7th, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Mr. Chairman, I did have one other item that popped up. On item 28, yeah, it passed. Not an issue, it's just a purchase. But Mr. Spearman provided a memo to me which did not get into the file, so I provided that memo to Suling, clerk's office, to incorporate into the file for item 28.
All right, motion to receive and file that item.
So moved.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
I
you.
believe we have one more gentleman that had a motion to, the motion to receive and file from Mr. Rod. Who did? You already got it? Okay, all right. All right, move to receive and file. Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Deep. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We adjourn. Thank you, Jim.